Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing Friday. We made it through another very busy week, but we're not done yet. We've got some business to attend to. I'm grateful that you're here. I hope your week was outstanding and you're excited for the weekend ahead. We've got the clock ticking away until election day is upon us. We're in the middle of election season, and we've got some litigation that we're paying close attention to, including some fraudulent affairs that are taking place in Pennsylvania. We've got the DOJ scoring a victory out of Virginia, and they'll have some illegal votes on their rolls coming up. We've also got Jack Smith and his battle for survival, because as we know here, he's not a real boy. And so let's jump into a quick preview on what's coming up before we get into it. We're going to go through this filing out of the District of Columbia, the January 6th case, Judge Chutkan presiding. We've been waiting for this one. It's been some time since we've had the joy of having the classified documents case dismissed after Judge Cannon in Florida decided that Jack Smith is not a real boy, not at all, was illegally appointed, not appointed at all, and not a real prosecutor. And so that case is gone. Now we're asking about the January 6th case because it is the same prosecutor on both. And so Trump's team has come out and dropped this, and it is something we've been waiting for. So we'll read through it. It's a nice 30-pager. We'll see what's inside. And it's saying Jack Smith is unlawful, not properly appointed by Merrick Garland, by Joe Biden, by Kamala Harris. And I'm excited for this one. All right, so that's coming up. Then, as I mentioned, we're going to turn our attention to what's happening in Virginia because Trump's not happy about it. And Governor Glenn Youngkin is not happy about it. What we see is that there are going to be 1,500 individuals who've identified themselves as not being eligible to vote. The DOJ sued Virginia after they took them off, and they said, put them back on. And guess what? A judge came out and said they're going back on there. So we'll read through it. Glenn Youngkin came out with the press release on this, and we're watching election shenanigans afoot all over the place. The Attorney General came out. We'll read through the actual order that came down from the federal judge in the Eastern District of Virginia. Before we look at why they have to do this, it's because Kamala is really struggling bigly. And so we'll see what CNN had to say about some of the recent polls. But as I mentioned, another big story out today is out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They posted this. Commissioner Josh Parsons over from Pennsylvania said, hey, breaking news. We found and stopped a major voter fraud operation, and they held a press conference today on that. And I have the full thing here. We'll parse through it. We'll listen to the district attorney. This is the prosecutor who is going to be investigating this fraud. And it was a big one. Apparently 2,500 voter registrations were unlawfully submitted here, and they caught it and have rejected those. But the question is, where are there others? And this morning on our members stream, we talked about Crazy Eyes Griswold out of Colorado and how in that case, in that state, they've already counted illegal votes that they cannot undo because they've already gotten past the signature verification people. And so it's everywhere, okay? It's like bedlam. And we're trying to get as much as we can squeezed in here, but we also have our member stream as well. So we'll get up to speed on what's happening in Pennsylvania. It's out of Lancaster County, which is this county right here. You can see in 2020, it went 56% for Trump. And what's happening in Mesa County in Colorado under Griswold also went bigly for Trump. I think 2/3 for Trump, over 60% there. So keeping our eye on these, and it's going to be a lot over the next 10 days until we get to the election. Now, big questions here. What's going on with all this fraud? Why do they need to be so fraudulent? Well, it's because Kamala's terrible. And CNN is reporting the same thing, saying, yeah, not looking good for them, which is looking very good for us. Meanwhile, Kamala's out there. People are asking her, why are you talking just like Ryan Ruth, the Trump assassin, would be? Why do you sound like him in your speech? Is he writing your speeches, Kamala? What's going on over there? Is that why you don't want Florida to investigate it? Because he's typewriting from jail, your speeches? We also have this woman. We don't talk about her a lot because why? But her name's Jennifer Rubin, and she's also melting down. Yesterday, we saw that Mika Brzezinski, Joe's husband, was very upset and was screaming, like melting down on MSNBC, saying, Trump's killing us, God, women. We go, what the hell is she talking about? And all the bros sitting around her were like, wow, this lady's having a meltdown right here. But they couldn't say anything because she, I think, is their boss or is in possession of their testicles or something. I don't know. But Rubin is out and she's furious that nobody is paying attention to this Trump Hitler meme that they tried to shove down everybody's gullet. Nobody believes them anymore because they've wrecked their credibility by, lying for a decade. So we've got this. Now, the Washington Post is also not endorsing. And the question is, will she resign? Will she resign from the team over there at the Washington Post? And so that's coming up. And then this clip is maybe one of the best clips of the whole election season. I was giggling like a schoolgirl this morning. I'm going to try to contain myself when we play it again. But this is Trump. Shocked. You can't even believe that Kamala Harris is saying the things that Kamala Harris has said. So it's a beautiful Friday, my friends. Very grateful that you are here and with us today. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful Friday. Hopefully you accomplished all the things you've set your mind to. Before we get into the business on the day, we got to talk about staying hydrated, okay? Because most people, they know that staying hydrated is essential to nearly every bodily function. But 75% of Americans still don't consume enough fluid daily. And as we age, our bodies change, makes it harder for us to stay hydrated, especially when we look around and there's artificial additives and sugars all over the place. But that's where Native Path comes in with the extra help, as you see right here. Now, this is not just another drink mix, all right? It's thoughtfully designed, packed with BCAAs, all 9 essential amino acids, helps with muscle recovery and overall vitality. Plus, it's completely sugar-free and 100% natural. Now, with their Native Hydrate product, you can fuel your body with the essential electrolytes that you need. And unlike other hydration drink mixes that are designed for marathon runners and stuff like that, which your boy's not doing here, they have upwards of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, but Native Hydrate has just 230 milligrams, much less for optimal daily hydration. Free of artificial flavors, sugars, and dyes, only 5 calories. Every order's got a 365-day money-back guarantee. Try yours risk-free. nativehydrate.com/Robert. Link is down in the description below, and you can see what Native Hydrate can do for your health today. So check the link out and get hydrated, my friends. And thanks to Native Path for supporting the show today. Now, also, you may see, if you're on YouTube, we've got some shirts down there in the product tab, and those are from my good friends over at 2A Republic. And so stick around. When we're done with the stream, I'm going to show you what's going on here in this box and what's happening with these guys. They're awesome dudes. Any Trump shirts that you purchase, because they look awesome, as you can tell, they're amazing. I'll show you this. We're going to donate any profits from the Trump shirts to Trump or Elon PAC or something like that. So I see that some people are checking them out right now, which YouTube tells me that you're checking them out. That's cool. So if you're checking them out, I'll explain more about who they are, what they're all about when we're done here. Really good dudes, definitely on our team. And so they're here local, and I've known them for about a year. Cool dudes. Anyways, we'll check it out. All right, so we've got some fun stuff to talk about today. And so let's get right into it, my friends. It's a beautiful Friday. You know how much we love a Friday when we have a document drop that's 30 pages? And it's about Jack Smith and throwing his butt out? It's a good one. All right, so let's do it. Jack Smith is back on the ropes for the second time. We already know that Judge Cannon dismissed the classified documents case and said that Jack Smith is not a real boy, not a real prosecutor, was never appointed properly by the president, certainly not confirmed, and so he had no authority to prosecute Trump at all in the classified documents case. Shouldn't have happened, but it did. Until Cannon stepped in. Now, the same question, of course, pops up in a different jurisdiction. Why is Jack Smith still prosecuting Trump elsewhere if he's so illegitimate? Well, Trump's team has now emerged, and they've said, now's the time to bring this to your attention, Judge Chutkan, in the January 6th case, because we're still working through the immunity issues, but now it's time to say, Jack needs to go. We don't need to have any of these appendices being dropped. We don't need these last-minute election filings if Jack Smith is illegitimate from the beginning. It's a 30-pager from President Trump in his defense telling us, President Trump's proposed motion to dismiss is here, and we want injunctive relief against Jack, not a real boy, because there's a violation of the appointments clause. He was illegally appointed, and the appropriations clause. He took money that was never belonged to him, never appropriated to him or this prosecution. So here's what Trump's team says. They say President Trump respectfully requests leave to file this proposed motion, right? So they haven't actually filed it yet. They need permission from Chutkan to do it, to dismiss this superseding indictment and for injunctive relief, which is timely, by the way, and supported by good cause, based on violations of the Constitution's appointments and appropriations clause. And Chutkan is being very squirrely here, which is why we're approaching it this way. Remember, when Jack wanted to drop his 1,800 pages of garbage onto the public docket, she allowed him to do that, even though it was out of order by her own admission, and she gave him 4 times the size of the standard submission in terms of pages, quadruple the amount of filing allowed for Jack. And then Trump said, well, can we just wait and file ours in parallel fashion, contemporaneous with his filing, so we can file both of our appendices together so we don't have just one story out there? Chutkan said, no. So then Trump says, well, okay, well, how about we delay all this? Because if Jack is illegitimate, then we don't have to do all of that stuff anyways. Or if I'm immune, if Trump says I'm immune, we don't need to do any of those things. She says no. So we're taking things in a little bit of a squirrely order because Judge Chutkan, of course, is trying to rig this case to bring maximum damage against Trump prior to the election, just to backtrack on that a bit. But here's what Trump's team says. Now, leave should be granted. You should give us permission to file this because in an intervening opinion, while this case was stayed up on appeal with the Supreme Court, in a parallel case, Justice Thomas observed, actually, I think that was in this decision. He was referencing the appeal. Let's see. They say Justice Thomas observed in a concurring opinion, right? It's not law, but Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, shout out. He said in an opinion, Trump versus United States, which I think this was the appeal of this issue, right? Because this was paused for a while it went up on appeal and we determined whether immunity applies. Of course, it does apply. And so it came back down. Now, in a concurring opinion, which is not the holding of the case, Thomas said this. He said, there are serious questions, and he's much more baritone than me, so forgive me, there are serious questions whether the Attorney General has violated our constitutional structure by creating an office of the special counsel that has not been established by law. They made it up. The office came out of nowhere, came out of the Reno regulations, and they cobbled together a bunch of U.S. code statutes that don't even apply. So Thomas is hinting there's a problem here, and they're telling Chutkan that. Now, these issues are jurisdictional, okay? You can't just forfeit them or waive them. In other words, they are necessary for the case to move forward. If you don't have jurisdiction over the case, what are we doing here? Everything has to go away. In another intervening decision, a district court issued a thorough and well-reasoned opinion and relied in part on Justice Thomas's concurrence and credited many of the arguments that were raised by President Trump. And Judge Cannon, dismissed the charges unlawfully filed by illegal Jack, not a real boy. Now, the superseding indictment from Jack, because Jack had to do this over again because he's so terrible at his job, he had to do it again. He's like, oh, let me try this again. Stripped out all of the immunity things, which should have never been in there in the first place, never would be in there if we had a sane prosecutor and not somebody who was trying to weaponize the DOJ. Of course, 234 years of other prosecutors have never prosecuted a president before because there was practical immunity that existed until they came in. So then he had to do it again. He's like, oops, no, take that out. Except he left in stuff about Mike Pence and a destruction of documents charge. Now, filed after both of these intervening decisions. So Jack Smith got backhanded, and then he's like, let me try again. which warrants a new set of deadlines, by the way. So don't say this is untimely because Jack started the clock over again with his second indictment. Now, that is how the court proceeded in connection with the statutory motion to dismiss, and there is no countervailing reason to deny this motion here. So there's no bar to the proposed motion. You cannot waive this issue. It's a necessary condition. You have to have jurisdiction before you can start releasing appendices. So even though she's already done that. Now, the proposed motion establishes that this unjust case from Jack Smith and Kamala Harris was dead on arrival, and it was unconstitutional even before its inception. In November of 2022, you may remember this, Merrick Garland, our Attorney General, violated the Appointments Clause of the Constitution by naming a private citizen called Jack Smith to target President Trump, while Trump was campaigning to take back the Oval Office from Biden, which is Merrick Garland's boss. And he did that. He appointed private citizen Smith without any statutory basis to do that. Okay, there's no statute that says you have the power to do this. What did Garland do? Well, he did that following improper public urging by Biden. Biden said he needed to do something, as reported at the time in 2022 and repeated recently by Biden through his inappropriate instruction to, quote, lock him up, which we played here on our channel, while Smith presses forward with this case right as the presidential election rapidly approaches. Now, everything that Jack Smith did since Garland appointed him, as President Trump continued his leading campaign, beating Biden, and before they cooed him out, now we've got Harris, everything that Jack did was unlawful and it was unconstitutional. Now, that includes Jack Smith's separate violation of the Appropriations Clause, which is about the money, by relying on an appropriation, which is a slush fund, that does not even apply to him, in order to steal, they say take, I'll say steal, more than $20 million from American taxpayers to use against a presidential candidate. It's government funding of political opposition and lawfare. We're funding it. In addition to Smith, Jack also relying on more than $16 million in additional funds from other unspecified DOJ components. So $36 million that they've absconded. Now think about what Trump has to come up with to respond to that. The government has an entire infrastructure built around prosecuting people. If you're a defendant, if you're on the other end, you don't have that. You don't have a team, a building of defense attorneys and staff just to stand up and defend you. So Trump, if they spent $36 million, he has to come up with at least 1-to-1, right, as a defense. At least he has to spend $36 million to get his defense attorneys and his expert witnesses and all of that stuff, at minimum. Now, think about that times a factor of 2 or 3 or 5 or 10. How much money has gone into this? From Jack Smith. These are just on 2 cases. Then you can throw in Fannie Willis in Georgia and Tish James and Alvin Bragg and all these other cases. It's hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's done intentionally. And a lot of it is our money. Those are American taxpayer dollars going against Trump as a campaign sledgehammer. And they're using it against him without any limitations. Now, Smith was not appointed by the law, okay? The U.S. Constitution says you have to be appointed. None of the statutes, none of the laws that were cited in order to appoint Jack Smith, none of them provide the type of clear statement from Congress that is necessary to authorize a department head to appoint an inferior officer like Jack. In fact, far from the required clear statement, the plain language of the statutes that they used, as well as the context, the historical understanding, all of those things directly undermine the validity of his appointment. In fact, the statutes show he shouldn't be appointed. At least one Supreme Court justice, a district court called Judge Cannon, 2 former attorneys general named Ed Meese and others who administered the laws at issue back during this time, several prominent legal scholars, among others, all of us here at Watching the Watchers, have supported that conclusion. Now, courts in this district, on the other hand, have erroneously relied on a single sentence from Nixon, which cited the same statutes that Garland used to appoint Smith. Now, the sentence is dictum, Not to be confused with the Fannie Willis case. Dicta meaning it's not relevant to the holding, as it lacks reasoning, was based on an undisputed issue that wasn't even part of the case, was not necessary to the Supreme Court's holding, and is not even an accurate characterization of the statutes that are at issue. Now, decisions from this circuit in the D.C. circuit that rely on Nixon did not address intervening decisions regarding the clear statement rule or the major questions doctrine. Now, as such, they do not control the outcome of this motion. They're not persuasive authority. Jack Smith can't rely on that, and he's not lawfully appointed. Now, even if Smith is a valid officer, which he's not, by the way, they're writing, he is a principal rather than an inferior officer. And his appointment is plainly unconstitutional because he was never nominated by the president or confirmed by the Senate. This conclusion follows from the lack of effective oversight over Smith. No one's in charge of him, they kept saying. He's like an independent counsel, and he can do whatever the hell he wants. So he doesn't actually fit into anything. It's almost like they created their own department for Jack, like he's his own U.S. attorney's office. So he had no boss, essentially. He had extremely broad jurisdiction. And unless and until he's removed, his tenure is limitless until his work is concluded. These features of his job violate the Appointments Clause. Somebody with those types of powers has to be properly appointed. That's called checks and balances that are part of our system. Now, Jack Smith's massive expenses, 36 million stolen American tax dollars, also violate the Appropriations Clause. He has operated with a blank check by relying on an inapplicable permanent indefinite appropriation that was enacted back when we actually had an independent counsel statute. We used to have rules for this in 1987. But Smith was not appointed pursuant to that act because that act expired back in 1999. Congress had problems with it, and it was a terrible thing. So we're not going to do that again. But they still kept this indefinite appropriation fund, and Jack Smith is stealing money from it to prosecute political opponents in America. It's sick. Now, the appropriation contemplates the possibility of appointment by some, quote, other law. But guess what? No other law authorized Jack. The appropriation to get that money also requires that the prosecutor actually be independent in the very particular and the rigorous sense that attorneys that were appointed under the Independent Counsel Act that created that provision, how they meant it to be independent. But that's not what Jack Smith is doing here. And so Jack should have never been permitted to access these huge sums of money and use this funding to prosecute Trump. And so based on all of this, this entire second draft loser indictment that is trying again should be dismissed. And an injunction against additional spending by Smith, cut off his money, should happen right now to prevent the ongoing irreparable harm and to ensure relief for this Appropriations Clause violation. Let's go. Trump's team continues. Their background begins as follows. They say, all right, listen, Judge Chutkan, we're here on the January 6th case. You've been difficult this entire time, but you've been dealing with an illegal, unlawful prosecutor. Here's the story. On November 18th, just 3 days after Trump announced his candidacy for this historic race, Attorney General Merrick Garland allegedly appointed Smith as a, quote, special counsel, and he's, quote, going to prosecute federal crimes arising from the investigations that they made up. In the order, Merrick Garland cited these U.S. statutes, and we've read them here, I don't know, half a dozen times. And they're all various statutes that don't say anything about appointing a special counsel. In a press statement, Garland touted the appointment. He said, the DOJ has a commitment to independence on Smith's part and accountability for unjustly pursued targets. Now, according to the statements available for the expenditures, look at this. From November 2022 to March 2024, Jack's office has spent $20 million. Just alone. That's excluding the last 7 months. Then an additional $16 million in DOJ component expenses that are attributable to this investigation. That is so much money. You know how much money that is? To prosecute one man in 2 cases? $36 million to prosecute 2 cases. It's insane. This extraordinary sum of money was spent only on 2 cases, one of which has been dismissed on the grounds that Jack is illegal. That prominent scholars and former federal prosecutors have criticized this as politically motivated and in violation of the DOJ's policies. Now, the court should grant this motion, okay? It's timely. There's good cause. We're not waiving anything here. This motion is going after the superseding indictment, the second draft, which did not exist at the time of the court's previous motion's deadline, because they charged him again and they changed the entire document. Because, of course, there's immunity that the Supreme Court said. And since this court properly permitted Trump to supplement this file, that's what we're doing. Now, Judge Clarence Thomas from the Supreme Court, shout out, he instructed that, quote, the essential questions that were raised in our motion must be answered before the prosecution can be proceeding. Now, this was in a concurring opinion, so it's not binding. He just says, in my opinion, we got to figure out, like, is Jack even legitimate? Does he even have power to charge Trump at all? In addition to the timing of the superseding indictment, Jack's second draft, that command from the Supreme Court supports good cause. That's why we're here. Equally important is the fact that along with Justice Thomas's concurrence, Judge Eileen Cannon, in her very thorough and incredible, we read it, intervening decision, present thoughtful and important reasons supporting this argument. These are fatal constitutional defects that they have in their case, and they're causing irreparable harm, and they cannot be waived. In fact, they must be addressed. Jack Smith's actions pursuant to his unlawful appointment based on funds which he should not have even had access to have resulted in the exercise of power that the actor did not lawfully possess. It is tyranny, right? It is a prosecution by an illegitimate government. The proper remedy is the invalidation of the action, which means everything that was done ultra vires outside of the power, outside of the limitations of his power, has to go. It has to be dismissed. Now, because Smith's actions are ultra vires, they're outside of his lawful power. He has none. He's simply a private citizen. He has no power. His lack of standing cannot be ignored. The court does not have jurisdiction over a criminal prosecution that's maintained by someone other than an attorney for the United States. He has no power here. And so we have to address this now. Trump's equitable request for an injunction is not governed by the other procedural requirements. So you can't say this is the wrong time for this motion. These are serious problems infecting this case and the grand jury proceedings and the indictment itself. And so based on these considerations, Judge Chutkan, the motion raises constitutional challenges, and these issues may be considered on appeal whether or not they were reviewed upon or ruled upon below. The purpose of all this is to ensure that we do not lose liberty, says Clarence Thomas. And like presidential immunity, the Constitution secures liberty by separating the powers to create and fill offices. This is the problem. The Biden administration created the office of Jack Smith out of thin air and gave him $36 million. They don't have the power to do that. Congress does. Similar to presidential immunity violations, failure to adhere to the requirements of this risks weakening the presidency. Litigating, challenging government conduct risks enfeebling the presidency. We have to keep our checks and balances in line. Now, finally, there is no countervailing reason to deny filing. Unlike when the original motion deadline was set, there's no trial scheduled. And so there's plenty of time to address this. And so we should do that. So do not bar this motion, Judge Chutkan, because we're here and it needs to be addressed before anything else can proceed. Now they continue. Now, to get to the meat and potatoes here, Judge, let's be clear. Jack Smith was not appointed by law. The Appointments Clause of the Constitution requires that by law. It's in quotes. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2. Look it up, Judge. You'll find it. By law means you have a statute. Who passes statutes? Congress does. The Appointments Clause requires that any congressional decision to vest inferior officer appointment power must be made by law. Now, Jack's appointment order cites no law by Congress that grants the Attorney General to appoint someone like Smith, because there isn't one. Consistent with the major questions doctrine and other cases like this, talking about the separation of powers, a clear statement from Congress is required to support an appointment like Jack's. An inference just from a bunch of other statutes that says, well, you have power to do this and power to do that, doesn't count. The Supreme Court has applied this clear statements rule when a statute implicates a historically or constitutionally grounded norms that we would not expect Congress to unsettle lightly. Like if it's kind of a big deal, we need Congress to say something about it. Appointing Jack Smith to prosecute a president with $36 million is kind of a big deal. The Appointments Clause is a safeguard. It's a structural safeguard in our system. Our separation of powers jurisprudence generally focuses on the danger of one branch of government gobbling up and aggrandizing too much power. The Appointments Clause requires that officers be created by statutes with direct congressional authorization. Congress creates it over here, empowers the executive to then enforce it. It reflects the Constitution's original meaning and the framers' balancing of the powers. We don't want the executive branch to create the offices and then prosecute them and do it because they'll create whatever they want, which is what they're doing. This requirement is deeply embedded in the Constitution, and it was central to the formulation of the appointment power. Now, the absence of the legislature's bark is all the more compelling when one considers what the watchdog is guarding. A private citizen like Jack cannot criminally prosecute anyone, let alone a former president, unless duly authorized to do so by the American people. And Jack Smith's appointment order is no everyday exercise of federal power. He unlawfully was named by Merrick Garland. He was a private citizen, brought him out of Europe to investigate and prosecute a former president. It's insane. Garland instructed Smith to investigate Trump's shouldn't have even been prosecuted or investigated at all, his official acts of executive power, and he was charged by that. He was charged with immune official acts. How do we know that? Because he had to do it again. Derp Jack. He had to file a second indictment. Oops. Oh yeah, let me try that again. Yeah, because you goofed. Shouldn't have done it. Now, exacerbating that constitutional injury in an unprecedented fashion, inconsistent with decades of DOJ practice, Garland did so right when Trump was campaigning against Joe Biden, who held the removal power over Merrick Garland. Now, to put it mildly, these circumstances present unique and sensitive issues for our entire structure of our Constitution. Criminally prosecuting a president for official conduct is a far greater threat of intrusion on the authority of the executive branch than just simply seeking evidence in his possession. See, balancing that. Raiding a president's home is a bigger deal and a bigger intrusion on our government than Trump holding on to documents that were his. And they didn't care because they're just little maniacs who just hate Trump for whatever reason. Well, because he threatens their power and they're power-hungry maniacs. Now, the separation of powers concerns caution against reading legislation absent clear statement to place in executive hands, right? So don't just give the federal government everything, or the executive branch rather. You don't just give them the power to appoint officers and establish offices like one Jack Smith got. Indeed, there are cases, specifically in the Appointments Clause context, where the Supreme Court has insisted upon textual clarity when there's more ambiguous language. Now, the circuit court ruling in this other case, in this sealed case, is not on point. And by the way, that case has been abrogated by more Supreme Court authority. So if you're going to use your precedent to say that Jack is a real boy, well, your precedent is bad. In that case, the court acknowledged that these statutes did not explicitly authorize the appointment of Lawrence Walsh. The panel also correctly pointed out that Nixon had presupposed a valid basis for that case, meaning they didn't actually settle it if it was presupposed. the court nevertheless asserted that the statutes accommodated the appointment. Well, accommodation is not enough where, here, a clear statement is required. Accommodated, that doesn't count. So your precedent is kind of weak. The distinction also addresses a more recent consideration of the appointment of Robert Mueller in 2019. Now, in that decision, the D.C. Circuit said that the other case was binding, notwithstanding the cases cited above. So they just relied in the Mueller case on the bad case. So they set this really weak precedent, and then they relied on that. As well, we got precedent. Yeah, these special counsels are perfect because Robert Mueller was going against Trump. So like, yeah, he's great. We love Robert Mueller. And they declined to consider his dispute. And so in that case and in this case, they're not controlling, okay, because they were decided before the Supreme Court developed this identifiable body of law about this recurring problem, which is corrupt agencies asserting highly consequential power well beyond what Congress could have reasonably understood and ever would have granted. Now, as there is no authority for Jack's unlawful appointment, the case is an instance of the executive seizing the power of the legislature. They created their own office and then filled it. A 1992 case, they said, the Constitution's division of power among the three branches is violated when one branch of government invades the territory of another, which is exactly what Biden did here, whether or not the encroached upon branch approves the encroachment. So Biden usurped Congress. He created the office of Jack Smith to prosecute Trump. That's his office for $36 million, not budgeted by Congress to that office. He has the power to prosecute anywhere, at any time, apparently, with no oversight from Merrick Garland, out of thin air. Incredible. And because our Congress is so weak and feckless, and they've done nothing about this to defund the DOJ in any way, shape, or form, even though the Republicans are in charge of the House, and they whined about it for years now, they still do nothing meaningful. And so what they're saying here is even if Congress tacitly accepts this encroachment and sits there like weak, pathetic fools and does nothing, well, that's still too bad, okay? The executive branch still can't do it. Thankfully, we have the courts. Now, one of the most vital functions of the federal courts is to police this structure. The court is duty-bound to do so, and you have to dismiss this case, Judge Chutkan. The rules are clear elsewhere. The statutes that were cited in Jack Smith's appointment order contrast sharply with numerous other statutes that do confer the power very straightforwardly. Several provisions of this track the principal officer language of the Appointments Clause. Here's one. Congress has repeatedly demonstrated that it has the ability to imbue the Attorney General with appointment power over officers and employees. For example, Congress authorized the AG to appoint additional officers and employees as he deems necessary. But that statute applies to the Bureau of Prisons. Only to the Bureau of Prisons, and there's no corresponding statutory authority for someone like Smith. So they can't apply the Bureau of Prisons powers to the DOJ's power. And further, Congress has at times expressly created offices similar to this position, like Jack's. So Congress does know how to create this office. In fact, Congress created an office for a special counsel when they were investigating the Teapot Dome scandal. And a statute provided for the appointment of an independent counsel. They addressed that case in Morrison versus Olson. That statute was 28 U.S. Code 592. That's the law, right? Appointment by law. Jack Smith doesn't have one of those. That statute lapsed, and Congress has not reauthorized the appointment of that. So there is no law. Congress knows how to appoint a special counsel or create a law for a special counsel. But they haven't done it for Jack. And they're just using other statutes like the Bureau of Prisons and FBI powers and other things to say that they can make him up. It's not lawful. It's unlawful. And it's a prosecution that's happening in America using $36 million, causing damages probably to the tune of $100 million in legal defenses, not to mention the political damage that this has caused. How much political damage? You want to talk about $100 million in legal expenses? How about $1 billion in earned media that's favorable to the Democrats? Raiding Trump's home, nuclear secrets, conversations with foreigners, and selling our safeguards, and so on and so forth. Insurrection. maybe 2 billion, instigated, sparked by this. Now, who's illegal? These current and former officer appointment statutes, which use specific and explicit language, negate any permissible inference that Congress intended this. So, in other words, Congress knows how to speak. They can speak, and they do. So you can't now say, well, they didn't speak here, but we can infer that they intended to speak. No, they know how to speak. They'll open their mouth if they want to. They haven't opened their mouth here. So you don't then get to suddenly say you're legitimate. Therefore, the superseding indictment must be dismissed. Now, none of the statutes that they cited in their appointment order provides a sufficiently clear statement from Congress that authorizes unlawful jack. This conclusion is supported by the broader context, as well as a murky record about DOJ's use of outside attorneys. Specifically, the appointment of private citizens like Jack Smith, as opposed to already retained federal employees, are much closer to the exception than the rule. Now, against this backdrop, Merrick Garland's reliance on these statutes destabilizes what Congress intended. This is the exact thing that the framers were concerned about with the Appointments Clause. Now, as a result, the constitutional avoidance canon also counsels against the meritless interpretations that are relied upon by them. We're not supposed to rewrite the Constitution to serve your case. For all these reasons, Jack was not appointed by law. Everything he's done is ultra-virus, meaning he has no power to do it. And so dismissal is the only appropriate remedy here. And so let's go through these provisions. Trump's defense continues. They say, listen, Judge Chutkan, just to be clear on this, Section 509 and 510 that Jack Smith is relying on, they do not authorize appointments at all. 509 is a general statute. It says that the Attorney General is imbued with all the functions of the department, except in limited instances for ALJs in federal prisons, okay? Doesn't say you get to appoint anybody. Just says you have all functions of this department. Now, Section 510 says it's a general provision allowing the AG to delegate his functions to officers, employees, and agencies. So he doesn't have to do every single thing. He can hire people. Saying the Attorney General's power to delegate duties to an existing officer is not the same. It's delegation. It's not an appointment power. Other case law supports that. And so this is not something that gives him the power to appoint Jack. So next they turn to 515. On its face, 515 does not explicitly empower the acting Attorney General to appoint or retain anyone from that case. It requires a clear statement, as we talked about. You can't just make inferences because Congress knows how to talk. And if we just have a system and a society where it's just inferring everything, well, I think Congress was kind of trying to say that. We're living in total bedlam. We need clear statements. We have clear articulations of the law so we can measure our conduct against it and have clear separations and delineations of power. So they next go to 515. They say, all right, well, this one addresses the types of proceedings in which the AG or, quote, any other officer of the DOJ, officer, or any attorney specially appointed by the Attorney General under law, see that, under law means a statute, may participate. The phrase under law means that an attorney's office must have been created by, the law, not by Merrick Garland and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Any other interpretation would impermissibly render the phrase surplusage, meaning it's not necessary. And we don't read things that are written out as unnecessary if we can interpret them as being necessary. Congress put them in there for a reason. And if we read it in a way that it doesn't matter, then we're undermining Congress's intent. So if we interpret it your way, then none of this matters. This is a provision conferring territorial flexibility to the Attorney General. It allows the Attorney General to use DOJ officers and previously appointed special attorneys to litigate on behalf of the United States regardless of residency. But that doesn't provide for appointments. It doesn't say you have the power to go appoint a non-citizen or a citizen, private citizen like Jack. They go to Section B. They say this section addresses titles, oaths, and salary. That's all. each attorney that is retained under authority of the DOJ, meaning you don't get new powers, it's already granted to you, is similar to under law. It's under authority. It's a reference to an external source of appointment authority. This clause, again, is meaningless if they could specifically appoint people. And that's from a quote from another case. So the lack of appointment authority in that section is further confirmed by the verb tense. Specially appointed and specially retained, those are past participles that modify the word attorney. Although past participles can take past or present tenses, they were used in the past tense in 515 to refer to an attorney who had already been appointed or retained pursuant to another statute. And so it doesn't convey the power to then create it. It's just if they've been appointed, you could use them, but you don't get power to create it. And finally, the so-called Special Attorney Commission is a reference to another role that's provided for elsewhere. Congress moved those provisions to their current location in other statutes when they wrote the rules. The term special attorney has a known meaning. That meaning is assisting U.S. attorneys. So it's assisting, it's not prosecuting. It's a role that Jack Smith expressly disclaims. He's not helping another U.S. attorney. He is acting as a U.S. attorney, even though he's not appointed. Every other U.S. attorney is appointed and confirmed. Jack Smith was not, and he's not assisting them. Next is 533. They say, well, this one authorizes the appointment of FBI officials. Okay, FBI officials. It's FBI, not DOJ. Totally different section of the law. It doesn't authorize private prosecutors like Jack. It's not a clear statement. The appointment order and their meritless citation to the FBI would shoehorn appointment authority for U.S. attorneys, meaning if we could do this, this statute allows us to hire FBI personnel. So wait a minute, we can then appoint U.S. attorneys by using an FBI hiring statute? What kind of nuts is this? Such an interpretation would render superfluous these other powers. And it would wreck these other things. And you could just insert whatever you wanted in there. So this provision would be a really curious place for Congress to hide the creation of an office for a special counsel in the FBI. Weird. It's placed in a chapter concerning the FBI. It's not even included in the U.S. Attorney section. Chapter 33 and 533 supply clues of congressional intent. So does the FBI website. Under the heading, they say, where is the FBI's authority written down on the FBI's website, fbi.gov FAQ? The FBI says, federal law gives the FBI authority to investigate all federal crime not assigned exclusively to another federal agency. And the Justice Manual says something similar. So in light of this, if we read it in context, other statutes that specifically authorize inferior officer appointments, the term official is not interpreted to mean that they get unlimited appointment authority. Congress is not hiding elephants in mouse holes, all right? And you can't just tuck it in there and say, that's your power. Subsection D, as we continue, and they're laying out their case to Judge Chutkan. Trump's defense attorneys continue. They tell us, the Nixon dictum in the other case that Jack Smith relies on is neither controlling nor persuasive in this context. In Nixon, the Supreme Court made only passing reference to the cited statutes in the appointment order. The Nixon court provided no analysis on this issue at all. Rather, as noted above, the court presupposed, well, I guess it's valid, for the appointment of the special counsel Archibald Cox to investigate Watergate. The language is dictum. They didn't do analysis on that, and so it's not persuasive authority. They just said, well, I guess he got appointed and he's prosecuting it, so I guess we'll just deal with it. The Nixon dictum states, under the authority, Congress has vested the Attorney General to appoint subordinate officers to assist him in his duties. That language appears to have been lifted verbatim from a conclusory assertion in the brief that was submitted by Cox's successor. And that successor provided support for subordinate officers, which is disputed here. It did not establish that any of those statutes were authorized the appointment for an officer like Cox. That was not the argument that he was making in his brief. It's not the argument they relied on in that case. In fact, even in those arguments, Attorney General Richardson had only cited his authority under these provisions, which are not here. The Nixon case is dictum on these issues, so they were talking about other statutes and they're talking about here. And so the appointments in those cases are dicta upon dicta. Man, Nathan Wade and Fannie Willis were having a field day on this case. Dicta upon dicta. Wow. Dicta in the older cases cannot blind the courts to realities. The regulation at issue in Nixon was not ordinary and therefore distinguishable. Congress conditioned that confirmation as an independent prosecutor with more involvement in the Senate, without the president first consulting. And so consequently, Cox was intended by Congress and the DOJ, based on the development of this, with more authority. And the Nixon dictum concerned a peripheral subject that was not even raised in the case. And so the language is located in a section of the opinion, and the court's actual analysis was dicta. Based on these considerations, the single conclusory sentence in Nixon is non-binding and unpersuasive. Treating the sentence as dictum is consistent with this other case in the D.C. Circuit. In that case, the court characterized the dictum saying that the panel asserted the court had assumed without deciding that compensatory damages were available. And therefore, the same reasoning in that case applies here. The court is not bound by dictum. Now you know that, so don't apply it here. And moreover, let's be clear, Judge Chutkan, Jack Smith's appointment is also invalid for one independent reason. The appointment order also violates the Appointments Clause because Jack is a principal officer. Clarence Thomas said, if Smith is a principal officer, his appointment is invalid because the special counsel was not nominated by the president ever and was not confirmed by the Senate. And if he's a principal officer, he has to be, and he is a principal officer. The relevant factors in determining whether someone is a principal officer come from another case. We have to ask about the nature, the scope, and the duration of this officer's duties. And guess what? The special counsel regulations from Jack Smith afford Jack Smith the full power of a U.S. attorney. And what do we consider U.S. attorneys? Principal officers. The order says Jack Smith shall exercise the independent and investigatorial powers of a U.S. attorney. Garland himself has touted Smith's independence, and he explained that Jack Smith will not be subject to the day-to-day supervision of the department, meaning he's like almost as powerful as the DOJ, but not even a part of it. Prosecutors in this case later added that coordination with the Biden administration, which includes Garland as a department head and a cabinet officer, is non-existent. They don't even talk to him. These assertions are consistent with the special counsel regs and the principal officer status. So they say the special counsel shall determine whether and to what extent to inform the AG about their duties. Like, I'll tell you when I need to talk to you, Merrick, otherwise I'm on my own. Now, this framework does not lend itself to finding that Jack Smith is directed or supervised by Garland. No, he's as powerful as it gets. Smith is subject to removal for good cause, they say. Now, at minimum, there are serious questions whether that restriction even passes muster under the Appointments Clause precedent. Although the Morrison Court deemed the independent counsel an inferior officer despite a good cause removal restriction, the court did so in the context of a multi-factored approach that did not purport to delineate between principal and inferior officers. Justice Thomas cited this, and at oral arguments, Justice Kavanaugh described that case as one of the court's biggest mistakes. Oops. Justice Kagan has argued that the Morrison opinion is one of the greatest dissents ever written, and it gets better every year. Because Morrison addressed a different appointment under a different set of facts, it's distinguishable from that case, and there's no doubt that its now discredited analysis should not be extended any further. And so the appointment order that allowed Jack Smith to get here placed no real limitations on his tenure or jurisdiction at all. Unless and until Smith is removed, the special counsel regulations largely defer to Jack on a decision about the conclusion of their so-called work. Nothing in the regulations, the appointment order, or the record more generally provides a concrete sunset provision for the cessation of his work. And regarding jurisdiction, so he's got no limits. So he can work as long as he wants indefinitely, and there's no limit on his money at all. Congress hasn't limited anything. Their appointment of themselves is limitless. Regarding jurisdiction, Garland indicated that Smith could assume authority over investigation of, quote, any person or entity in connection with 2020, the president's handling of records under the Presidential Records Act, which covered immune conduct and decisions by Trump and numerous additional individuals dating back to at least 2018. So all years ago. All matters that arose or might arise from these enormously broad investigations and any matters within the scope of this subsection, which extended the scope to cover crimes committed in the course of and with the intent to interfere with the investigation. Now, so broad, right? The appointment order contains no geographic limitations, any state, anywhere, confers authority broader than that that's even given to U.S. attorneys who are limited to a circuit, to a region, or to a district, who are principal officers, more power than them. Moreover, Smith's ability to refer to these discrete prosecutions, refer additional discrete prosecutions to U.S. attorneys, exponentially multiplied the scope of jurisdictional grant by him, right? So now he can manage other prosecutions. Now, collectively, these considerations demonstrate that Jack Smith is a principal officer, and because the appointment order does not comply with the default manner of appointment, his appointment violates the Appointments Clause and the superseding indictment must be dismissed. Now, between November 2022 and March 2024, Jack Smith spent $20 million on his illegal prosecution of Trump. He has almost certainly spent many more untold millions between March 24 and today, right? How much more has he dumped as the election is escalating? A lot of money to drop those 1,800 pages. In addition to the $20 million spent directly by Smith and Jack's office before March 2024, other unspecified, quote, components of the Biden-Harris administration have spent more than $16 million on the same unlawful project. All of that money was spent illegally in a violation of the Appropriations Clause. The Appropriations Clause must identify a source of public funds and authorize the expenditure of those funds for the designated purposes. Appropriated appropriately. It is not mere happenstance that Congress is the chief guardian of the purse strings, except they're pathetic. Here's a quote. Drawing on the British experience, the framers placed the national government's fiscal powers in Congress's hands to check the propensity for aggrandizement and consequent loss of liberty endemic to a powerful executive branch that will create their own office and then fund it themselves indefinitely to do whatever they want forever. Since its inception, Jack and his office have unlawfully taken tens of millions of dollars from the government's coffers based on a permanent indefinite appropriation. These actions contradict the plain text of the relevant appropriation, and they're inconsistent with their representations to Congress when they argued that the Independent Counsel Act should be permitted to expire. At a committee hearing back then, Deputy AG Eric Holder explained that resource constraints are a needed check on prosecutorial overreach. Resource constraints. Cut off the money. Do you hear that, Congress? Even Eric Holder said it. To address this concern, the DOJ recommended letting the Independent Counsel Act expire, instead using lawyers appointed by the DOJ themselves. They said that, what safeguards would you have? What safeguards would you have if the DOJ acts like maniacs? He said, well, expenditures, guys. You'll just limit our expenditures. Holder said, if you had special prosecutors who operated within that framework of the Justice Department, you would not have the kind of concerns that you have here. That would be part of the department budget. And so Congress did allow the statute to lapse. The DOJ issued the special counsel regulations soon thereafter, but the DOJ never delivered on the assurance that future special counsel would be subject to budgetary limitations. So now Smith is drawing on a 1987 appropriation that authorizes, quote, all necessary expenses and investigations and prosecutions by independent counsel, Jack is not that, appointed pursuant to provisions of U.S. Code. But 591 is a reference to the lapsed act. And so for the reasons above, there is no law. Jack was not appointed lawfully. And so there is no permanent appropriation for him to dip into, but he's been doing it for almost 2 years. That is an independent basis for his dismissal. He has no money. Everything that was done here was unlawfully funded, and so it also has to go. So furthermore, Smith is not independent in any sense contemplated by this. The independent counsels were appointed in conformity by law, the Independent Counsel Act, under the requirements of the Independent Counsel Law. Congress expected these types of special counsel would be completely independent of the DOJ, which is what that money was for. Now, Smith's failure to be independent under this appropriation is clear. From a 2004 decision, that year, Jim Comey, gosh, these people are just in government forever, acting Attorney General, appointed then U.S. Attorney Patrick Fitzgerald as a special attorney. Comey exempted Fitzgerald from the special counsel regulations. During that year, the GAO, Government Accountability Office, evaluated Fitzgerald's access to the money, to the same money that Smith has abused. They explained, they said, no, you can't dip into that money. Even Comey said so. That is available for independent counsels. We looked. Was this special counsel independent? Department officials informed us that the express exclusion of Fitzgerald might conflict with the notion of independence. Now, the same cannot be said of Jack Smith, and this is a violation. This is an improper expenditure, and now it's exceeding $20 million. The clause is about separation of powers. And here, what we need is an injunction. In addition to dismissing this indictment, the court should stop Jack Smith from spending additional public money. No more money, no more lunch money for those prosecutors in furtherance of the invalid appointment order. A court sitting in equity cannot ignore the judgment of Congress. Here, the legislation at issue, Judge Chutkin, is a 1987 permanent indefinite appropriation. Jack's office is spending money in violation of that appropriation. The prosecutor is breaking the law, stealing money. As explained above, drawing funds from the Treasury without authorization by statute. An injunction is necessary because a dismissal order will not necessarily stop this. In fact, you might dismiss the case and they'll just keep going, as illustrated by the fact Judge Cannon already dismissed their case in Florida, and they're continuing to spend money on this case. She said, "You're not a real boy, Jack, and you're stealing money." And he said, "Oh yeah? Well, how about I keep stealing this money and I just appeal you?" What are you going to do about it? The office is directly pursuing the appeal. These actions are ultra virus. He shouldn't be allowed to appeal at all. Their money should be withdrawn now. Funded from a source of money that they don't have access to. And so we need an injunction. Cut off the money because Congress won't do anything about it. And so for the foregoing reasons, Trump's defense team, in a beautiful motion, say, for the foregoing reasons, we have established constitutional violations and we call into question your jurisdiction, Chutkin. This court should grant leave to file this motion, and the superseding indictment should be dismissed with prejudice right now. The court should stop Jack Smith and Jack's office from spending any more money in furtherance of his illegal appointment and in violation of the appropriations clause, because Jack Smith is not a real boy and will never be a real boy and should never have been allowed to bring these cases this far, costing hundreds of millions of dollars in defense funds and billions of dollars in political damage, all instigated and ignited by our own corrupt government, our own corrupt Justice Department, to wage war against their political opponents using an illegal prosecutor, making up fake cases of insurrection, which they didn't even charge him with, and having raids of his residence in America. And so we know what Judge Chutkin is going to do here. She is not going to dismiss this case on this basis. She'll make it go up on appeal. And we're excited to see where it goes. So we're going to be here continuing to cover this case and more. Thanks for subscribing as we do. All right, my friend. So good J6 update. Thanks for joining us on that one. let's turn our attention to some election fraud over in Florida. Here's the story. The DOJ scores a victory. They're going to allow illegals or non-citizens. We don't really know exactly what category of people these are, but they'll be on the voter rolls, even though they were booted off because they admitted themselves they're non-citizens. Well, the DOJ wants them on. Trump is commenting on this, as is Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia. We'll read what the order looks like from the court that is bringing these people back onto the voter rolls right as the election emerges around the corner. Trump said, "Sleepy Joe Biden and comrade Kamala Harris ridiculously accuse me of wanting to weaponize the Justice Department when they have done all of the weaponizing. Now, their truly weaponized Department of Injustice and a judge, who's appointed by Joe, by the way, have ordered the great Commonwealth of Virginia to put non-citizen voters back on the voter rolls." Now, this is a totally unacceptable travesty. And Governor Youngkin is absolutely right to appeal this illegal order, and the U.S. Supreme Court will hopefully fix it. Only U.S. citizens should be allowed to vote. Keep fighting, Glenn. And Republicans in Virginia, keep voting early. He's calling into Glenn's rally, and they're going to talk about this ruling and announce their final stop in Virginia. And so Trump is hitting in Virginia very soon. So we'll keep our eye on that one. Now, the president is commenting on it, but so is Glenn Youngkin, the governor. He says, look, let's be clear about this, okay? About what just happened. Only 11 days before a presidential election, a federal judge ordered Virginia to reinstate over 1,500 individuals who self-identified themselves as non-citizens back onto the voter rolls. Incredible. They said, we're not citizens. They said, well, we want you to vote anyways. What do you think about Kamala Harris, huh? Might be nice to have her as your president. She's like, well, I don't know. We're not even citizens. I don't know. We don't care. Well, you should care, and Kamala will save you. So here's what he said on the official virginia.gov website. Glenn said, all right, listen, let's be clear about what just happened. Only 11 days before a presidential election, a federal judge ordered Virginia to reinstate over 1,500 individuals who self-identified themselves as non-citizens back onto the voter rolls. Almost all these individuals had previously presented immigration documents confirming their non-citizenship status, a fact that was recently verified by federal authorities as well. This is a Virginia law that was passed in 2006, signed by Governor Tim Kaine. Remember him from that failed campaign with Hillary? That mandates certain procedures to remove non-citizens from the rolls, with safeguards in place to affirm citizenship before removal and the ultimate failsafe of the same-day registration for citizens to cast a provisional ballot. This law has been applied in every presidential election by Republicans and Democrats since enacted 18 years ago, saying Virginia is going to immediately petition the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals and, if necessary, the Supreme Court for an emergency stay of the injunction. And you can see this stuff is happening everywhere. We're talking about every day, more court rulings, more election discoveries, fires in Arizona. We've got ballot label printer problems in Wisconsin, Griswold. We talked about this morning on our member stream. In Colorado, they identified intercepted ballots that were taken and voted on and returned back, begging the question, is there a source problem? Is there somebody at the Postal Service who's stealing those ballots? Or are those coming from Griswold's office? Don't know, but it's everywhere. Jason Miyares is the Attorney General there, saying, here's my statement on this. It should never be illegal to remove an illegal voter. Yet today, a court urged by the Biden-Harris DOJ ordered Virginia to put the names of non-citizens back on the voter rolls mere days just before the presidential election. The DOJ pulled this shameful, politically motivated stunt 25 days before Election Day, challenging a Virginia process signed into law 18 years ago by a Democrat. and approved by the DOJ in 2006. Now, more concerning is the open practice by Harris to weaponize the legal system against the enemies of progress. This is the definition of lawfare. To openly choose weaponization of good process and lawfare over integrity isn't democracy. It's bullying, pure and simple. And I always stand up to bullies. Now, in the meantime, I encourage every Virginian who just had your vote diluted, literally, like your vote is worth less than 1 now. Every non-voter, non-citizen voter who's on the voter rolls dilutes your vote to less than 1 vote per share, per person, because it's diluted, because they shouldn't be voting. To openly choose weaponization over good process is bullying. Now, in the meantime, I encourage every Virginian to exercise their right to vote. Rest assured, I will never stop fighting to preserve the integrity of our election process. The Commonwealth of Virginia will appeal this decision all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. And so here is what the opinion looked like. You can see this was a lawsuit that was brought by, looks like 2 consolidated cases, Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights versus Susan Beals, saying, we would like our non-citizens to vote, please. Thank you. And the DOJ, the Department of Justice versus Virginia. Why do they need to cheat like this if they're honorable people who care about democracy and the right to vote? This matter, here's the Supreme Court, or here is a district court judge, Eastern District of Virginia, short order from this judge. His name is Patricia Tolliver Giles, and writes the following. Says in her order, this matters before the court. The court is hearing about preliminary injunctions. Now, to receive a preliminary injunction to stop Virginia from removing these people, the government needs to show the following things: that they're likely to succeed on the merits, they're likely to suffer irreparable harm, the balance of equities tip in their favor, and an injunction would be in the public interest. Now, for the reasons stated in open court, oh, she's not even going to put it in writing, pathetic. The court finds plaintiffs have established the 4 elements and they win. Pathetic, judge. At least put it down, at least write it out. She just talked about it on the record, and that's it. Great. So here it is. The plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction, granted in part, denied in part. Here's what is ordered. The Commonwealth of Virginia are now enjoined from continuing any systematic program intended to remove the names of ineligible voters from registration lists from now until the election. Although this does not preclude removal of names from the official list of voters at the request of the registrant, they call and they want their name removed, then they'll take it off. If there's criminal conviction or mental incapacity as provided by Virginia law, individual correction or death, it is so if they want their names removed, they can remove them. Otherwise, you got to keep them on. It's also ordered that the state restore voter registration of anyone who is canceled after August 7th, unless the registrant subsequently submits a voter request removal by crime, or the same reasons as above. So don't take anyone else off. Stop taking people off. Put everybody back on. Thank you, DOJ. Also ordered that they issue guidance to immediately restore anyone else who is removed as well. Also ordered within 5 days, you need to notify the registrant, hey, if you're a non-citizen, you are now going to get notified that your voter registration has been restored to the voter rolls. What kind of country is this? It's crazy. You get a notice that you're registered to vote unlawfully. Oh, or maybe are you unlawful? Are you an unlawful voter? You have to be a citizen to vote. Oh, no, I'm not a citizen. Oh, thanks for being honest. Okay, great. So you can't actually vote. Oh, okay, great. So I understand. Then the court reverses it and you get a notice that says your right to vote has been restored. You say, I'm not a citizen, though. Doesn't matter. Welcome to America. Welcome to Kamala Harris's DOJ. Incredible. You have the right to vote. So now get out there. It's restored, whatever that means. Explaining you may cast a regular ballot on election day in the same manner as other eligible voters. It gets worse. It gets worse. Hey, not only is your registration restored, you get to vote. And also, just to be clear, when we canceled your registration before, it doesn't mean that you're ineligible, and there's not going to be any criminal prosecution or any other penalty to vote, okay? So we're going to also roll out the red carpet for you too. And we'll have a nice little cushion for your wrist as you're voting for Kamala Harris in there. You're not going to be prosecuted for being an illegal person voting. So you know those forms? You know when they say on those forms, nobody who is a non-citizen would vote. Well, they're going to be allowed to vote right here, 1,500 people. And you always hear them say, well, they have to declare under penalty of perjury and all these, there's threats of crimes. They're going to be prosecuted if they're non-citizens who vote in our elections. That's a federal felony. All the time, right? Nonstop, barking all the place. So now they're advised it is not a crime. You literally, if you're a non-citizen, your registration is valid. You may cast a ballot as a non-citizen. Your cancellation is not at all effective. There will be no penalties for you. And advising you who are not a U.S. citizen, advising registrants who are not U.S. citizens that they remain ineligible to cast a ballot in Virginia elections. Okay. So you can't vote in our state, but you still can vote in the federal elections. You may cast a regular ballot in the same manner as any other eligible voter. What the hell is this? So you may cast a regular ballot as any other voter, but you're ineligible a remedial mailing to each registrant. So I think what she's trying, let's continue to read before I lose my brain. Ordered that within 5 days of this order, defendants and their agents shall post copies of this remedial mailing and a copy of this order on the website. Do the same thing at the Department of Elections. It's also ordered within 5 days. They make all practicable efforts to educate everybody about the restoration of these impacted voters and the ability of impacted voters to cast a regular ballot without submitting any additional paperwork. Such efforts shall include tracking of poll worker training in all 95 counties. Incredible. So you actually also have to go out and educate everybody about this concerning the cessation of purported non-citizenship removal program and other remedial actions. This is one of the most insane orders we've read here. Now, ordered that within 5 days of this order, Virginia shall also submit to this court under seal a report detailing every voter registration that was canceled. The report shall include the voter's full name, middle name, everything, social security number, if any, yeah, right, driver's license number, if available, and the reason for the cancellation. They said they confirmed they were non-citizens. Also, their authority or ability to cancel registration through individualized review is not limited, nor does this order limit their ability to investigate non-citizens who register to vote or who vote. What? So they can investigate non-citizens who register to vote or vote in Virginia's elections, except these 1,500 people, I guess. This injunction only applies to the systematic program which occurred after October 7th. Ordered that the other aspects of the injunction are denied, and this is from Judge Patricia Tolliver Giles, who, as far as we can tell, just allowed 1,500 people, give or take, that's according to Glenn Youngkin, to then vote. They're going to be on the voter rolls. They've already, according to them, presented immigration documents saying they are non-citizens, and the feds verified it. But they're going to be able to cast a ballot. I think what she was trying to do is distinguish between local elections and federal elections, but she didn't do that in the order. She probably talked about that in open court, but she didn't write it in there. So it's just about as gruesome as you can get. It's absolutely shameless that we'll have a bunch of people who are now notified, oh yeah, you've been restored. You can cast a ballot. Your cancellation's perfect. We know you're a non-citizen, but you're going to get a ballot anyways. And it diminishes every person in Virginia's rights, all of our rights, because we have people who should not be voting in our elections, voting in our elections. So you can see why they're doing this. It's because they are just about as panicked as can be. And I think a lot of these are the marginal, things around the margins that will matter when you compile them all up. Yeah, it's 1,500 voters here, but compounding that with all of the other changes, you just got to get to like 11,000 in some states. Remember, Georgia was only like 11,000. Arizona was like 11,000. Now, I am of the mindset that the victory is going to be much bigger than it was in 2020. The margins will be way bigger than 16 in 2020. I think we can feel it in the air, which is why they are issuing these orders that are so shameless and un-American and really unconstitutional. But she did what she needed to do, and this is why, because Kamala is having a tough time out there.
Lots of people on the Democratic side of the equation say, how could it be possible that it's tied? Why is Harris not running away with this? Well, it's the environment that she's running in. We asked folks, your financial situation over the past year, so today compared to a year now, a plurality, nearly half, 49%, say they are worse off today financially than they were a year ago. 35% say they're about the same. Only 16% say they're better off. I'll also just say we have Joe Biden at a low approval rating at 36% in this poll. We have the wrong track number. 7 out of 10 Americans say we're in the wrong direction. Things aren't going well. It's a rough environment if you're running in the incumbent party.
Yeah, rough environment. So they better bring in about a couple million fresh voters and then have the DOJ do whatever they can to get them on the rolls. That's what they're doing. It's not going to work this time because we're all getting out, doing our part, and voting like our lives depended on it. And we'll see you out there. All right, so we've got one final story on the day, my friends. More interesting voter fraud shenanigans that have come out now. A voter fraud ring busted in Pennsylvania. You see Commissioner Josh Parsons from Lancaster County, the official county commissioner, said, breaking news. Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, a very important swing state, finds and stops suspected voter registration fraud operation. And it was a big one, 2,500 ballots that they have identified in this bundle. The question, of course, becomes, what have they not found? What has gone through? So it's out of Lancaster County. We know Pennsylvania, very important state. Some say the most important this election cycle. And Lancaster is right here. In 2020, Trump carried the county 56% to 41%. And I think these are interesting because we're trying to identify where the fraud is occurring and what is the purpose of the fraud. We talked previously in a different segment about what's happening in Colorado. Jenna Griswold, Crazy Eyes Griswold, who tried to get Trump thrown off the ballot for this election cycle, is now admitting that there were ballots that were intercepted as they were being sent out to voters, which leads us to believe that the fraud was occurring at her office or at the Postal Service's office because they're intercepting the voters on the way out. Before they get to the voters, they're being voted and returned back in. Now, she says there were only 3 of those, but we all know the concept of a limited hangout. And when they come out and they say, well, it's just a couple of small things here or there, it never is. Okay, it's not 3 ballots, Jenna. Can you tell us how many others got through before you caught on to it? No, you can't because you don't know. So we'll go through this and see what else is happening here. But the fraud is a big one. And Just the News has some background on it. Before we get into some of the reporting, this was the district attorney who came out and says, yeah, there's criminal elements to this and we're looking into it. But here's some more background. They say, look, here's a fresh blow to Americans' confidence in elections. Prosecutors in a key Pennsylvania county said on Friday they'd uncovered a large-scale scheme to submit fraudulent voter applications that were collected at shopping malls and other locations. Lancaster District Attorney, we're going to hear from her, Heather Adams, held a news conference, said 60% of some 2,500 election registrations were fraudulent. Said that while detectives continue to review the applications, they've confirmed fake names, IDs, and signatures were used to submit the applications, creating potentially fake voters. In some cases, real voters' names were used, but they said they neither approved nor signed the registrations. At this point, we've confirmed violations of our criminal code. Said we're aware of at least 2 other counties that may have similar concerns about recent voter registrations dropped off in large batches. Staff noticed that there were numerous applications and confirmed indicators of fraud. Lancaster is a politically influential county in the battleground state, home to a large Amish population that both parties have courted. Shout out to our Amish friends. Probably not watching the show. Pennsylvania State Department, which oversees elections, praised Lancaster County for its quick actions. The department has been in contact with the county and is offering support. And we've already talked about prior schemes here. And of course, that is a big one. 2,500 votes is a big deal. So here is what it sounded like. This is District Attorney Heather Adams explaining.
District Attorney Heather Adams. On Tuesday afternoon, I was contacted by Krista Miller, who is our Chief Clerk of Elections, regarding potentially fraudulent voter registration applications that had recently been received by her office. At that time, she informed me that the Elections Office received approximately 2,500 applications at or near the deadline for registering to vote. While preparing to process these applications, staff noticed that numerous applications appeared to have the same handwriting, were filled out on the same day with unknown signatures, and some were previously registered voters, excuse me, and the signatures on file did not match the signatures on the application. So before I begin to summarize our preliminary findings, I must remind everyone that this is an ongoing investigation, and for that reason—
All right, let's see if we can get some better audio from this feed, because—
we're able to verify some of the applications.
No, there's not. It's all one-sided audio. It's all
I
mono.
will be limited in the details that I can provide. Lancaster County detectives began investigating the voter registration applications and immediately found applications that were indeed fraudulent. Indicators of fraud included inaccuracies with the addresses listed on the applications, false personal identification information, as well as false names. A number of the applications also contained names that did not match the provided Social Security information. In some cases, applications contained correct personal identification information, such as the correct address, correct phone number, date of birth, driver's license number, and Social Security number. But the individuals listed on the applications informed detectives that they did not request the form, they did not complete the form, and verified that the signature on the form was not theirs. At this point, it is believed that the fraudulent voter registrations are connected to a large-scale canvassing operations for voter registrations that date back to June. However, the majority of the applications received are dated August 15th and after. Those canvassing for voter registrations were employed and paid to obtain voter registration applications. The majority of the applications were from residents in the city of Lancaster. However, applications were also received from residents in Columbia, Elizabethtown, Mountjoy, Akron, Ephrata, Stevens, Strasburg, as well as other locations across Lancaster County. The canvasses themselves took place at various shopping centers, parking lots of grocery stores and businesses.
This was happening all over
sidewalks,
Arizona, too. We had
and
people
parks.
everywhere.
During
They're
this
still out.
preliminary investigation,
Not anymore.
detectives were able to verify some of the applications were indeed legitimate.
We had a ton of voter registration people. Now they've turned into door knockers. So we're getting a bunch of door knockers, and it's a bunch of Democrats. I live downtown, so it's a highly Democratic area. But the point is, they're out. They're out and about. A lot of money being dumped into these orgs.
The applicant verified that they did provide information to a canvasser. For these applications, we will immediately advise voter registration and that we confirm that they are legitimate requests, and voter registration will process that application. Thus far, of the investigations that we have completed, we have determined that 60% have been fraudulent. That is of the investigations that we've completed. We do have more to do today, and my understanding is that voter registration is still going through the box of 2,500, but should be completed sometime here today. As I said, the
That's what they
investigation is
caught.
ongoing. We are aware of at least 2 other counties that received similar applications that are currently being investigated. At this point, we have confirmed violation of our crimes code as well as our elections code. We have all available detectives working on this. We are all hands on deck so that we can properly assess the validity of these applications in a timely manner. If needed, we will request additional assistance from our local police departments. The message to the public is this, and this is a limited message to those who may have been impacted with this batch of 2,500. If you have reason to believe that your personal information was used on a voter registration application without your consent, or if you were approached by someone and asked to register under suspicious circumstances, we do want to hear from you. You can call the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office, 299-8100, and ask to speak to the on-call detective. I want to thank the staff of the Voter Registration Office for their excellent work, their diligence, and cooperation.
It's nice that they're catching this stuff, for sure.
We will, of course, release any additional information that we can as the investigation proceeds. This time, I want to turn it over to Commissioner Alice Yoder.
All right, so let's fast forward to some questions because they do take some questions here after a little bit. Let's see what she says.
On the applications, fake and false personal identification information as well as false names. Also applications that contain names that did not match the provided Social Security information. There were also applications, though, that had correct personal identification information, but the signature did not match. And when investigated,
so what organization was behind it? Any ideas?
Some of the signatures look like the same person signed it from one point.
Right, and those, yes, that's correct. The signatures, the handwriting, the signatures, and that's really what started to tip off our staff is that, you know, these were in a stack and
Got to change
all
it
of a
up,
sudden,
fraudsters.
several had the same handwriting and signatures. And immediately our staff contacted us in the district attorney's office. That's how we got alerted and then started this large scale investigation. And as the district attorney said, that's when the detectives started to then contact those voters and found out that they were, in fact, most of them were not actually the person who filled it out or signed them.
Got it. And you believe this is an organization?
I would say we can say it appears to be an organized effort at this point. But of course, it's an ongoing investigation. And
So maybe not an
looking
organization.
into who exactly participated in it and how far up it goes.
Wow. All right. So like, is it a couple employees who were just there? Like, you know, you get $10 every signature, every registration you get, and they just filled out a bunch of them and collected the money and they're gone with the wind. And this is tied to a bigger organization, or does this mirror and match what we saw? I think it was in Michigan or Montana, Minnesota. I think it was an M state last cycle, where they got offices at strip malls. Remember that? And they were out there, and then they just kind of abandoned ship. The local cops were looking into it until the feds came over and took it over. Was that in Michigan? I think that was last cycle. We read through the document, and the feds came in like, this is our case now. Or is this is it a nefarious operation, or is it a legitimate group that just had some bad actors in it? But 2,500 is a lot.
Well, the fraudulent registrations and applications, did they involve one particular party or did it involve both?
I could say
Great question.
It does not appear at this point. It doesn't seem that it's any one party. In some cases, they're registering in different parties. In some cases, they're just changing an address or at least appearing to change an address or something else other than party. But at least from what we're seeing, it doesn't look like it's any one necessarily registration. I don't know if the district attorney can also add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that right for the general election, it really wouldn't matter. What we are concerned about is the fact that if there's fraudulent voters, if there are voters on the books that shouldn't be, it increases the chance that we're going to have voter fraud.
Well, it does matter in the context of securing a motive. Who's behind it? And our take when we were talking about Colorado and Griswold, if these were MAGA election Russian insurrectionist interferers, wouldn't we know that? If this was Pootie Poo, wouldn't they be telling us it's Russian invasions again and collusion again? So it makes me believe when they're being coy about who's behind it, what operations are behind it, we know it's the Democrats. They just can't say it.
And
I think.
what
I
we're
could be wrong on that, but that's my gut instinct.
looking into and what we're going to investigate is whether or not, thankfully we stopped part one, right? That was getting a voter on the books that perhaps shouldn't have been. But part two is whether or not anyone intended to turn that application then into a fraudulent vote. And for all intents and purposes, that's been stopped because of the good work of those in the elections
Which
office
we
and the
appreciate.
ongoing
We
investigation.
appreciate. The question we have is what
And
else
with
came
that,
in?
I don't know if you want to speak to this as well. Anyone who tries part two potentially, we're going to find you.
Yeah.
We're also looking at those applications as well and then matching them up against these applications. So we take this very seriously. I don't know if you want to address that as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I said, we have all resources and all hands on deck. And of course, we're going to follow this investigation as far as we can. We will make arrests if we can, and they will be prosecuted accordingly. We have violations of the crime code, potentially forgery, numerous violations of the elections code, which are misdemeanors of the first degree in some instances and carry with it a 10-year disenfranchisement. So we'll be looking at all the options.
Good.
Let's go back. Ma'am?
Ireland, ABC 27. You said two other counties also, Heather, I believe, that are experiencing this. Are you able to tell us what counties?
I'm not going to name them. That would be up to them to make a statement if they so choose. Our detectives have been in contact with both of the detectives in those two counties at this point.
Okay, and just a follow-up question for going back. Did you say that some people may have been approached on the street to fill out something, and then those are included in the fraudulent as well?
Correct. The canvassing operation appears to be in public spaces, parking lots, grocery stores, other businesses, parks, sidewalk and intersections in the city where they would have been approached voters to ask if they wanted to register to vote.
Okay, so then they would have filled that out, and then it wouldn't have been real, correct?
Well, in some cases, right,
It
that's
was
what we're
real.
finding, that we're finding a number of different things. Some cases where the voter felt uncomfortable moving forward, but yet the application was submitted, and others where
That's
the
weird.
information on the form is, completely generated and not accurate.
Carter?
Do you think you caught all the applications coming from this operation?
Good question.
Were they all just submitted at once on
Deep
Friday?
breath.
Sorry, last Monday?
Friday and Monday.
Yeah, or, did more come in July and August that might have been approved?
Yeah, are they
What
just
it
getting
looks like to
desperate
us
and
is
sloppy?
that, and we kind of mentioned this previously, that the date on the applications is one thing. When they come here, it's another. And so it appears that this stacks, I should say, were generated starting in July and in August and September, and then were brought in at the last minute.
It appears, right? They
think-
could just be backdating those registration
I think your
forms.
question, Carter, is are we confident we've isolated them? We're confident in our procedures. We're confident that the elections workers that we have do not cut corners and that they're reviewing all applications in accordance with the law, and that if there were any other issues, we would have caught them.
Yeah, and to that point, as we've said all along, that's how our staff caught this. This is the process they go through from the time, since voter registrations and mail ballot requests come in. Yes, Barbara?
Is that unusual? There were two separate batches of more than 1,000 each, one on Friday, one on Monday?
Yes.
Okay.
And throughout, I will say this, we've gotten large batches, quite frankly, over the last several weeks from canvassers. And, I don't think we want to, I know we don't want to disparage all folks that are registering people. This seems to be, at this point, and I don't want to steal anything from you, but it seems like it's isolated to maybe one organization, you two. So we don't want to say
One
that
organization.
you can't trust anybody, quite frankly, because voter registration is a personal matter, and there are a lot of good people trying to help register people, and that's great and that's fine. and we're happy to help, get those people registered. But this is not right. It's illegal. It's immoral. And we found
cheating.
it, and we're going to take care of it.
All right.
Yeah.
District Attorney?
I want to just comment on that. There are a lot of grassroots activists out there registering people in Lancaster County and all across Pennsylvania. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We 100% support it regardless of your party, and those are fine. And it is not unusual to have large number of voter registrations coming in. We're processing those. This is a limited, specific organization, and we'll deal with that.
Who is it?
Can you name that organization?
No,
You're
there's,
investigating?
no more comments about, who's behind this or what organization.
Why not?
Or how many.
Why not?
involved.
District
Why?
Attorney, you-
All right. Now, look, I understand why. All right. So if we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, they're like, well, we got to investigate. We don't want to start lobbing accusations around and all the things. But if this was TPUSA, all right, doing this, you think that wouldn't have leaked already and they would have been smearing Charlie Kirk or somebody like that, right? You think that it would be all over the cover, right? Trump's people are stealing everything. I think if I have to guess, it's someone on the left. And the reason they don't want to talk about who it is because it's bad for them. And it's the same pattern that they found in Colorado. And in Colorado, it's a limited hangout, right? These are limited hangouts. People are paying attention this cycle. People were not acting with open eyes as much last cycle because we couldn't believe that we'd have such a bunch of fraudsters out there rigging our election right in front of us. But people are paying attention now and calling it out. And Griswold is doing the same thing, right? She's doing her limited hangout, alerting everybody they're onto us. So we'll keep our eye on this. I'm really glad that they caught this. I'm really glad that they're bringing it to our attention. I'd like to know who the people behind it were. And I'm curious who it is. And if it is somebody on the Republican side, if it is some other operation that we don't know who it is and they reveal that to us, well, we'll come back here and eat our words. But I have an inclination that if it was a Trump organization, they would be blaming Putin already, and they're not doing that here today. So why do they need to cheat so badly? Well, it's because they're doing terribly in the polls. Here is CNN trying to break the news to their viewers that Trump might even win the popular vote, for crying out loud, even with all the illegal aliens voting. They might vote for him.
Finally get his great white whale. Harris versus Trump national margin. You mentioned that New York Times poll, a tie. That's actually right in the middle of the spectrum when we're talking about recent polling data. You don't have to look very far to find Donald Trump ahead nationally. He was up by 2 points in the CNBC poll, up by 3 in the Wall Street Journal poll. Very close races within the margin of error. But then the same thing on the other side, right? You have Harris up by 3 points according to Ipsos. The Say 24 YouGov poll, it's a bunch of academics, also has Harris up by 3. But the bottom line is, with the popular vote, which we really haven't focused upon, a very, very tight race, John. Fact is, Donald Trump is very much in a position he could win the popular vote, which, of course, is something he would absolutely love to do.
And would be something very different than we have seen compared to last time and the polling compared to last time.
Exactly right. So I went back through the time machine, all right? I went back through the time machine to see where were the past 2 races at this point in the campaign. Look, Harris in the average poll right now is up by 1. Well within the margin of error. You go back 4 years ago, Joe Biden was well ahead of Donald Trump in the national popular vote polls. He was up by 9. Even Hillary Clinton was up by 6 points. So now Donald Trump's in a position he really hasn't been before at this point in the campaign, where he could truly compete, and we can truly say that the popular vote at this point is way too close to call. Of course, this is only going back 8 years. I wanted to jump even further back in my time machine to get an understanding. Hey, I haven't heard about a Republican potentially winning the popular vote in a while. And it turns out a Republican winning the popular vote, it hasn't happened since 2004 in George W. Bush defeating John Kerry. And that's only the one time that it has happened. In fact, you have to go all the way back to 1988 to find another one, when it was George W. Bush's father, George H.W. Bush, winning the popular vote over Michael Dukakis. So the fact that the polls right now are so close, John, the fact that Donald Trump has a legitimate shot of winning the popular vote is something I think a lot of folks, including in my line of work, really didn't think could possibly happen when Donald Trump was running last time around. He could make history, not just for Donald Trump, for a Republican candidate as well.
Now, there are some reasons for this, and I think Democrats' heads are all exploding out there watching this right now. There are some reasons for this, which you're going to explain, but also begin to raise the possibility that we could see the reverse. We could see the reverse of things we've seen, where a Republican wins the popular vote, but there's a chance for the Democrat to win the Electoral College.
Yeah, part of my job is to warn our viewers on either side of the aisle of an event that may occur that they don't necessarily like, and Donald Trump winning the popular vote could absolutely happen. You might as well wrap your minds around it now, folks, if you don't like Donald Trump. But on the flip side of that, a potentially good sign for Democrats is, why is Donald Trump doing so well in the popular vote polls? You can dig down into the state level polling, and you can see that Donald Trump is doing particularly well in California, Florida, New York, and Texas. Of course, none of these states are really on the board at this point. So Donald Trump may end up gaining in the national popular vote polls, but actually he's wasting votes, which could in fact lead to a case where Kamala Harris could sneak by in the Electoral College by sweeping those Great Lake battleground states, which at this point are way too close to call, John.
That's right. It'd be interesting to see then if all that talk about Electoral College reform takes on a bit of a new light.
It may. In 2000, remember, folks thought that Al Gore would win the Electoral College and lose in the popular vote. It turns out they were all wrong.
All right.
Amazing. What a great report. Yeah, Democrats' heads are exploding at home. A bunch of people just broke their TVs and canceled their cable networks, and Washington Post and all that. Hilarious. He's braced for impact. Now, we're not getting complacent here, okay? We're voting. We're going to be channeling Mika Brzezinski here, okay? We're going to be voting like they're killing us. We're going to be out there voting like we're going to die, all right? Just pretend like you're Mika Brzezinski for the next 11 days until you get your ballots in. Okay, we're all going to die unless we vote, right? That's how it is, because Kamala Harris is going to be in charge. And now she's talking like Trump is Hitler. And it's a funny question that she gets. It's, people who shot at Trump or were going to shoot at Trump, they all kind of sound like you. Is that a problem, you think?
One quick question. Mitch McConnell and Speaker Mike Johnson put out a statement comparing rhetoric that you have been using, comparing it to the man who's accused of an attempted assassination on your opponent, Donald Trump. Do you take their criticism seriously?
Well, listen, we all must speak out against any form of political violence, and I'm very clear about that. No one should be the subject of violence, much less political violence. But the American people deserve to be presented with facts and the truth. And the fact and the truth is that some of the people closest to Donald Trump when he was president, generals, including most recently John Kelly, a 4-star Marine general, have been very clear about the danger and the threat that Donald Trump poses to America and the fact that he is unfit to serve. And the American people deserve to hear that and know about that so they can make a decision based on what's in the best interest of themselves and their families.
Okay, so basically, yeah, she's going to continue to talk that way, right? He's a real threat to you, and he's going to kill you and your families, just like Mika Brzezinski said. He's killing us. He's killing us. So one person who is very upset about this is Jennifer Rubin, and she writes over for the Washington Post. She's basically a hysterical person, and she is getting even more hysterical. She usually doesn't come on camera a whole lot that we see of her on X anyways, because nobody, I think, watches or listens because, well, you'll hear. But here is what she's so upset about. Now, if you don't understand the threat that is happening in America right now, America, I don't know what's wrong with you, okay? Jennifer Rubin is very upset with you, and you need to figure it out, okay? We're in a real crisis. Trump's going to murder everybody immediately, and Jennifer Rubin wants you to know about it.
This is what the election is about. What happened? It was nowhere to be found on the front pages of the major newspapers today. What is wrong with them? If the most breathtaking news of our political lives hit them in the face, they would not know about it. And once again, they have failed the American people. Will it make a difference? I don't know. Certainly, Fox is now making excuses for why a reference to Hitler's generals might not be as bad as we think. Really? Well, they're about as detestable as can be. But the rest of the Americans need to wake up. the rest of America need to understand this is not a joke. This is not a drill. This guy is nuts. He's dangerous. And the people closest to him know he's nuts and dangerous. And if we can't figure it out, if the American people can't get their act together, then we really don't deserve the democracy we've been
Okay,
given.
yes, Jennifer, we're all going to die. We know. Okay, we don't deserve it. So you can see how upset she is. Now, here was Mark Hemingway. Here was Jennifer Rubin. She said that yesterday when one of her organizations, one of her friends' organizations didn't endorse because they're so embarrassed by Kamala Harris, then she said that she endorses them resigning. So this person, Sewell Chan, said, I'm resigning because I want to make it clear that I'm not okay with us being silent. Garza told me. She says, oh, bravo, all respect. We're so proud of you for resigning. Where are the rest of them? Now, the question is she going to resign because the Washington Post is not endorsing anybody this season because they can't stand Kamala Harris and they have a little bit of self-respect left. So Mark Hemingway is asking if she's going to resign. Of course, the answer is no. And what's so interesting that's happening right now, my friends, is they're starting to eat their own. This morning on our Membo stream, we talked about the back and forth between Anderson Cooper and Charlemagne and how they were attacking each other over who's talking about Kamala Harris's blackness, and they can't figure it out. So the finger pointing and the knifing of each other is happening inside the Democratic Party, and we're here to enjoy it. I don't know about you. I have a little feeling when I watch videos like this, and they're so upset, and they're so crumbling and failing all around us. I am a little inspired by Kamala. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it does bring to me a little sense of joy. So we're excited. We're excited to see the momentum and the trajectory continue ahead. And this is one of the funnest clips, I think, that we've seen yet of President Trump. He doesn't even know that he's hilarious and he's being hilarious. But here he is with Bill Malugin, and he gets asked about his reaction to Kamala's reaction. And Kamala, during her town hall with CNN, which was a disaster, even Anderson Cooper couldn't believe it, she was asked specifically about her role on the border and how well they did during her time as the vice president. Here's President Trump in response.
She said during that town hall she believes they've handled the border correctly. CNN pressed her on it. Would you have done anything different? Do you regret anything? And she said, quote, I think we did the right thing.
Now, wait a minute, that she's handled it correctly?
Correct.
She said that?
She said that. She said, quote, I think we did the right thing.
We allowed 21 million people in. We allowed 13,099 murderers. We allowed mental institutions from all over the world. If she said that, look, she's a grossly incompetent person. And if she said that, they had the worst border in history.
I want
my favorite, the absolute look of shock on Trump's face. She said that right there? Wait a minute.
We did the right thing.
Now, wait a minute, that she's handled it correctly?
Correct.
She said that?
She said that. She said, quote, I think we did the right thing.
We allowed 21 million.
She said that? It's like, bro. It's like, bro. It's like, she said that. She said that. She said that. She said that. Unbelievable. And he's exactly right. It's been a catastrophe from Kamala. She thinks she did a great job. Everyone around her tells her she did a great job, but the American people know better. An outstanding clip from the amazing president. My friends, we'll be here continuing to cover this. Thanks for subscribing and joining us as we do, and we'll see you out there on the election trail. All right. So, my friends, it's been a fun Friday stream. Thank you for joining us. If you're just joining us right now, we covered 3 good segments. One was the January 6th case with Judge Chutkin. Jack Smith is now on the ropes again, the second time, because Trump's team is filing a motion to get him out of the case for being illegally and unlawfully appointed. Should never be here. Should never have been prosecuting these cases at all. We also talked about the voter fraud that is happening in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a very important county. And we talked about the Biden-Harris DOJ that is now bringing on 1,500 non-citizens to vote in Virginia elections. And they're very excited about that because they don't care about your vote. They'd rather have non-citizens voting and participating in the elections. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. and we'll see what you say about all of this. And before we jump into your comments, I wanted to share with you this new partner that we have here. These are friends of mine. They live here local in Arizona. Two really good dudes. Shout out to Jonathan and Michael. Been working with them on some other projects that I will be sharing with you here soon. But we were out at dinner. We were talking. We've been friends for about a year, working together. And they've got this company and they've got this organization that has these shirts. And they're really great. They've got a bunch of shirts. And right now, they're available, so you can purchase them. They're here. They're all made in America. They're shipped from America and shipped from them, right? They pack these puppies up and they'll ship them to you. But here's what it looks like when you get them. So you can grab them now. 2A Republic is the name of the company. And here's what we're doing. So I said, hey, they've got all these shirts. They've been in production. And so if you'd like to grab them, this is what you'll get. So they come in here. Let me show you what happens. It's a real nice experience. So the holidays are coming up. The election is coming up. When you open it up, here's what it looks like. So the full experience. Look at that, baby. Heck yeah. All right. And so super cool. When you open them up, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We love our Constitution and our Second Amendment. And when you open these puppies up, they threw a bunch of stickers in here for me, but they do a real nice job, right? So everything is nicely packaged up. And inside, we've got all these stickers, but I'll show you some of the shirts. And here's the deal. So on these shirts, the Trump shirts, any profits that come from the Trump shirts will go to Trump or a super PAC. We'll go to Elon's campaign PAC or something. All right, so we'll just pass those along and they'll go out. But I think this is a really nice, simple design. And it's got the flag on the side. And so you'll see more of this. I think I'll be wearing some of these puppies because I dig them big time. So this is cool. Again, any profits from the Trump shirt are going to be donated back into the cause because that feels like the right thing to do. So if you want to grab one, and that'd be awesome. They're really good dudes. They're on our team. They just wanted to design some stuff that looks good that we can all wear. So here's another one that I think is awesome. Second, right? Very simple. And I don't like stuff that has a bunch of like flashy stuff on it. It's very simple. There's that one. Here's another one. And just kind of simple and clean, right? Pretty nice. So they're good friends. If you grab some shirts, you'll see them popping up in the YouTube store, but you can also go to if you type in 2A Republic, you can grab some gear here and it'd be really great. Yeah. So again, really good dudes. They've got some cool shirts. I think it'd be nice to raise some funds and to gear up a bit. So if this looks good, check out their store or just click over on YouTube and grab something. So we'll get those out. Everything's made in America. It's not a polo. I know it's not a polo, but they're cool. So I'm looking forward to wearing these. I mean, these are good. I'll be wearing these out and about to the gym on some nice leisurely days. And I really like the Trump logo shirt because it's simple. It doesn't have a bunch of stuff on there, and there's a bunch of stuff on there, but on some of them. But it's a great, it's a great box. I think it'll make a great gift too. So if you're looking for Christmas gifts or anything coming up, like these guys are sharp. And they designed all this. Like they designed everything, and they worked really hard to get stuff, made in America. So check it out. It's 2A. And I don't know. I haven't tried them yet. I haven't put them on yet. I mean, they're really nice quality and stuff, but this is a medium. So I'll wear a medium tomorrow for our Membo stream. I'll start making some videos of them. And then we're going to do a little bit of refresh on the studio over the weekend. It's election season, so we gotta make it look good back there. So we're getting ready, right? We're switching into election swag season. So check it out. Do they make tracksuits? I don't know. It's a good idea, though. I should ask them. So check it out. Yeah, check it out. They have good stuff. So there's the Trump gear, which I think is, amazing. But there's a bunch of other stuff, too. And so let me show you some other items. I think the Don't Tread on Me is clean, too. Here's Don't Tread on Me. Comes in black. And good shirts, right? All made in the USA, monogram. The Trump tee comes in black also, which is sweet. I mean, that looks cool, man. It's good. It's good shirts. Anyways, real good dudes, and they're doing good work. And we want to support them, sell some shirts. It's a great way to support the show. And then any Trump shirts, we're passing that along to Elon or something. I'm waiting for my dark MAGA hat to get here. In fact, it might be here today. I ordered dark MAGA hat. I'm excited about that one too. We're going to gear it up, baby. We're going to have a lot of fun over these next couple days. We're going to be here live on election night. You better believe that. And I've got a fun, I was sharing with locals, we've got a fun 4x4 screen so I can pull up all of the news feeds. So we'll have real-time internet data. We'll have a real-time plugged-in feed to all the cables. So 4 on a screen at one time. We'll have Fox, MSNBC. We'll have some of the others as well. It's going to be great. So it will be good. It will be good. All right. And so, my friends, thanks for being here. Thanks for sending in the nice donos on the day. Thanks for grabbing a t-shirt and enabling our work here. Let's see who's joining us. We got some great comments here. Your dark MAGA hat arrived today. I got my notification. I ordered it the day that Elon came out on that speech, and I ordered it. And then I just got a notification like 2 days ago that it was on its way. So I'm excited about it. We're going to gear it up, baby. Hey, it's Friday, my friends. CGI Joe is in the house bringing in new membos. What's up, Donut? Thanks for clipping for us. We've got CGI Joe bringing in membos. We got Hippie Hank is here. Maui Girl. We got Ken. We got Honk Honk. And I'm out of my mind right now. Please leave a message in the house. What's up, CGI Joe? Thanks for bringing in the new membos. Hey, 5 more. We got Mr. Bit is here. True Time. Pure Effin' Chaos is here. Jess from Texas. What's up? Wiley Sow and Mystic Gypsy. Gifted membos courtesy of CGI Joe. Good to see you, CGI Joe. Thanks for bringing in 10 membos. Hey, Sue Esponte says, happy 6-month watchers anniversary to me. My favorite addiction from Sue Esponte. It's good to see you, Sue Esponte. Thanks for being here with us. We love 6 months. 6 months. 2/3 of the way to a baby, almost halfway to a year. Thanks for being with us, Sue Esponte. We love having you here. 1917 Beamer says, hey, Bob, OMG has an expose about Maricopa County poll trainers. Oh, James O'Keefe. Interesting. He always has good gets. So we'll see what that looks like. Hey, Rebecca P., what's up? I'm ready, my friends. Let's roll. That was from earlier. Good to see you, Rebecca P. Thanks for being here 4 months as a membo. Grateful to have you. Cheryl Lau became a new supporter. Welcome aboard, Cheryl. We'll see you on the membos streams. And we got a new baby here. What's up, Don? Don McGroarty with a new baby. Says we got a new Patriot here today. And we voted today, too. It's a great day. It's a great day, Don. Glad to hear you got that in. And thanks for being here for 9 full months. That's full term. It's a lot. What's up, Sheila Poo? 10 membos, courtesy of Sheila Poo. Thank you, Sheila. Check this out. Look who's coming here, courtesy of Sheila. Joe Baker is here. The Promise One. Brandon Platt. Lone Wolf. Frosted Sleet. What's up? Jen Reynolds. Lynn Mack. Gina Henry. C. Davenport, a.k.a. Based American Woman. And Yellow Potato in the house. Gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Poo. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila. Hey, Glenn Croy bringing in 10 more membos. We got Clayton is here. Based Shaman, Island Square, Sonny Mod, James Weatherly, Jeff Larson, Gabby Hayes, Victoria Hughes, Fur Shizzle is here. Dustin D, gifted membos, courtesy of Glenn Croy. Glenn, thanks for bringing in 10 new friends. Hey, Steve Clark is here. Says, I've been gifted a member for 12 months. Thank you. 1 year, strung together 12 gifts in a row. How amazing is that? Thank you, Steve Clark, for being here. And thanks, everybody, for gifting our friends in. Hey, what's up, Knox? Knox is a defense attorney in Texas. Sent this one in. Says, happy Friday, all. I've had a fabulous, no court, little work, lots of reading pleasure Friday. Hence, I'm sharing even more blogs. This is from the amazing Julie Kelly. We love Julie Kelly here. So this is from declassified.live, which is where Julie Kelly reports. And yeah, it's a good report. So here's a plug for Julie Kelly, courtesy of Knox. Thank you, Knox. So she's on Substack. Yeah, declassified.live if you want to check out Julie Kelly stuff. Kamala's crawl to the finish. Another bad week. She's having a hard time over there. You can see that's the report. from Julie Kelly. What's up, Julie? And thanks, Knox. Hopefully you had a great week. Sounds like a great day. We got this one from Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer. 5 membos gifted. Ronnie Dowdy. We got Lee Freedom, Michael Normandu, Eclectic Rose, and Doggy Lover. Gifted membos courtesy of Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer. We love you. We have Tom is here. Tom Forsyth says if Jack wants to become a real boy, he needs to find the blue fairy. Closest they have is Pete Buttigieg. I don't know what that means, and at this point, I don't think I want to. Hey, what's up, the Silverback? 5 membos coming in. Thank you, the Silverback. Look who's here. Davies Fire, Knittin' Kitten, Jim Tells You, Cheryl Sneed Jebby, and John Carter in the house. Good to see you, the Silverback. Thanks for that one. Bringing 5 new membos in. Hey, Daniel's here. Says, I know there will be a wave of litigation post-election. Will the news outlets that have put out slanderous and falsified stories be held accountable legally? Unlikely. Yeah, unlikely. Think about just what happened historically. And we were going back down memory lane, Daniel, when earlier this week when we were looking at the Hillary Clinton Russia collusion hoax. Remember that? And how they turned that into a giant thing, and it wasn't at all, obviously. And how ridiculous it sounded. Was anybody held accountable for that? No, no one. No one went to jail for that at all. It was all fake political propaganda. They got away with it. Here's one. Lady Ice says, look what my aunt found and sent me. It's my grandfather's Presidential Legion of Merit Award he received. I love these old documents. These are so cool. To all those who shall see these presents United States of America greeting. This is to certify that the President of the United States is authorized by Congress. This has awarded the Legion of Merit to Colonel Don Blanchard, United States Marine Corps. Amazing. For his outstanding services. Amazing, man. Shout out to your grandfather, and we appreciate his service here. Here's some pics of him, man. Shout out to Colonel Blanchard, man. How cool. In the house. My grandpa Don as well knew him as, look at that guy, man. It's a good looking Marine back there, you know? Shout out. Amazing. Amazing. Shout out to our Marines. Hey, Sheila Poo says 654 likes. Will you please smash that like button? Thank you, Sheila, for the reminder. It's a good reminder. Sheila knows what's best. Hey, Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. We're bringing in more membos. Jane Gilmar is here. Charming Clown. What's up? Baxter Blue. We got Liesa. Tofo in the house. Winston, Sandy Thompson, Tazzy Wazzy, Spartans Never Die, and Jason who in the house. Welcome aboard. Here's one. Dicta. There it is right there. Sheila Poo welcoming new membos. We got 5 more coming in. Tom Livati. What's up, Tom Livati? Barbecue Sauce is here. Stephen T. Spacetime Continuum's in the house. Gary Coe and CGI Joe gifted membos. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing in more friends. Angel's here. Says, love your brain. Thanks for all you do to keep us informed. And pray for Trump and America. Thank you, Angel. I appreciate your brain, too. Thanks for being a membo and supporting us. Hey, Liberum X. 5 months as a membo. Thank you, Liberum. Early voting in Florida. Trump received 4 votes, my fam. Let's go, Liberum. Amazing. Glad to hear you got those in. We got this one from Damn It, Janet. Says, hit the like button, smart people. Thank you, Janet, over on Rumble. Thank you, Janet, for that reminder. Hey, Sheila Poo is bringing in 10 more membos. Sheila, look at this. We got Cyrus Draken, Diane DeMars, Chicago's here, Will Tyler, Lynn Roberts, Crystal Love, Jack O'Lantern, Carol Risinger, Elaine, and Thomas Friedrich gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Poo, bringing in 10 more membos. Thank you, Sheila, for doing that. Hey, Schlista says, it's simple. If she allows Jack to remain, when Trump wins, he can handpick every single prosecutor without Senate confirmation and prosecute all of them into oblivion. Into justice. Voice of the people, dictum, I barely knew him. Niels says, tomorrow Trump speaks at MSG. That's cool. What's MSG? I don't know what that one is. But I know he was on Rogan today, which we're all waiting for. What's up, Glenn Croy? John Cox in the house. Thank you, Glenn. Bringing in 5 membos. Southern Lady, welcome. New Spin. We got Joe Drum and a lot to learn. Gifted membos, courtesy of Glenn Croy in the House. Thank you, Glenn, for bringing in new members. Madison Square Garden. Okay, that's it. Yeah, that's a good one. He's there. That's right. And I think they're going to protest, or they were organizing counter protests. Sharpening Man in Texas says, God help us if we lose the election. Vote for families. Thanks for being a member for 8 months there, Sharpening Man. One more and we have a baby. Hey, Sheila Pooh. Thank you, Sheila. Very nice dono here. Says, when Trump wins and we take back the House and the Senate, they need to bolster our election laws to make our elections safe going forward. Should be the first thing done so we aren't always doing this during the election. Yeah, it's wild. How many lawsuits have we covered here over these last 3 weeks? I don't know, 20, 25? Sudden urgent motions to remove this or to add that or to adjust this. Like, what have you guys been doing for these last 4 years? Haven't you been settling any of this? No, evidently. Sharpening Man in Texas says Texas has ads saying illegal immigrants are here to stay. No, sir, immigrants. Okay. By the way, I sharpen surgical tools to shovels. I grind all day. They can too. From Sharpening Man in Texas. Oh, well, your name is very appropriate. Sharpening surgical tools to shovels. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting work. Thank you, Sharpening Man in Texas. Yeah, I think a lot of people would want that to be the case. Schlista says, I live in Virginia and my wife is a Japanese citizen with a U.S. green card. The DMV keeps trying to get her to register to vote. I'm the one that tells her that's illegal. Well, apparently not anymore. This is so wrong. Yeah, I mean, if she was part of that bucket, she's definitely allowed to vote now, according to them. I mean, consult Virginia law, but that judge seemed pretty excited about it. Hey, Maynard says, a court said too late to teach a hand count. We covered that story. Yeah, and it wasn't even a hand count of the votes. It was a hand count of the ballots, just to do a reconciliation between the number of ballots that came in through the machine and the number of physical ballots in hand. That's all. Can't even do that. Too complicated. Hey, F. Joe Biden. What's up, F. Joe Biden? Been a member for 8 months. Thank you for that. One more telebaby says, happy Friday, Rob. Happy Friday to you, F. Joe Biden. Also says, how do we get these judges and lawyers that have been paid off by Soros and the Democratic Party off the bench because they're corrupting our country? Impeachment is the only real way to do it. And it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So what's up? Milo Phone Bill says, it's only 1,500 votes. Why did I bother getting naturalized? Yeah, well, that was probably a different era when we had a more capable, competent country before they were ransacking it and having it hollowed out by everybody, basically everybody. So good question, Milo Phone Bill. Thanks for doing it, though. Hey, Bonnie says, what does Biden-Harris DOJ judge want these self-reporting non-citizens do to get their name off the rolls? Notarize request and their firstborn children of? Yeah. We'll only let your name off the ballot if you sacrifice your firstborn. Otherwise, you're getting a ballot and you're going to vote and you're going to like your vote and it's going to be for Kamala. So just do it. DeHook says, Trump is coming back to Atlanta on Monday. I'll be attending this one also. Last one was great time. Great people speaking and in attendance from DeHook. Have a great time, DeHook. It's going to be a lot of fun, no doubt. Doug Blask says, I'd love for the phrase, not a real boy, to come out in court. I'd love that too. Yeah, Jack Smith is not a real boy. And that's a great idea. Yeah, it's a great idea. Hopefully one of Trump's attorneys is watching. Just reference Pinocchio and just say he's not a real boy. Don't quote me, just quote Pinocchio. Jack Smith is not a real boy. Hey, Beth, what's up? Voted early in person in Pennsylvania today. Good to see you, Beth. Glad for that. Thanks for the report. Very important vote. Very important state. Thanks to our friends who are voting. Glocky says, breaking news. Israel has launched numerous attacks against Iran. It's developing now. And I did see that. Thanks to you, Glocky, because you flagged it for us. So here is what Israel posted. In response to months of continuous attacks, right now we're conducting precise strikes in Iran. Great. So it's perfect timing. So more global war, right on cue, right in October. October surprise. Here we go. Can't wait for the response to that. And we'll see what Kamala says. Maybe that will escalate and they'll declare martial law at some point or something. Let's see what happens. All right. E. Texley says Mitch McConnell has refused to allot any aid to Ted Cruz or Rick Scott. Cruz's willingness to help and send the appointment of electors back to the states has made him a target. Please vote for Cruz. Yeah, Cruz is in a tight race, and we're hopeful he pulls through. I think that he will, but it's tight. I think Trump is going to just cause a rising tide, right? There's going to be long coattails for a lot of people. To Sadaka, here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, today we've been getting a lot of door knockers, all of which were Democrat. That's my experience too. I've not gotten any Republican door knockers. I've gotten two Democratic door knockers that I've answered. Others have just come and gone. Glocky says, IDF has officially announced its attack on Iran. Right on time, perfect timing. Liberum says it's obvious that the Dems are going to cheat again. Yeah, they're doing it right now, and they have been doing it for about a decade. Lady Ice says, great, I have a bad feeling about this whole voter registration story. I can totally see the bad actors on the left posing as Republicans and joining Elon's big voter registration push, especially with $1 million a day drawing thing and purposely getting false applications to frame the right and to frame Elon. Yeah, I could also see that too. Coming out and blaming Russia again and just faking a Russia, something like that, right? Same pattern. Hey, Knox says, Kamala is here in Houston with another aging and annoying overrated woman called Beyonce. No one even cares. Yeah, I've never, I couldn't even name a Beyonce song. Trying to think of one. It's not the, I don't know. I know it's not the Milkshake song, but that's the one that came to my mind first. And then there was the other one about wet things, but I don't think that's her either. So, yeah, I don't know. I have about as much interest in Beyonce as Kamala. All right, anyways, what's up? Chubby's here. The election fraud. I'm looking at the comments to see Say My Name. Is that a song of hers? Say My Name? It's not even ringing a bell. All right, anyways. Next up, Chubby. What's up, Chubby? The election fraud was announced only because they were caught and made public. And like you said, being so coy about it leads one to believe it's being perpetrated by leftists. If it was Trump doing it, they would tell us. It'd be all over the media. Trump is stealing it right now. Yeah, here DeHook says, a guy on X earlier showed a Kamala voter registration space in a strip mall next door to a post office. They had already covered the window front. He asked what they were doing. They threatened to call the cops on him. The window coverings brought back bad memories. Yeah, we remember those. We sure do. Glocky says here from Democrats. Democrats say voter ID laws are a threat to democracy. Be honest, and they're racist. Be honest. I want illegals to vote to help us win. Thank you for finally admitting it. Thank you. Hey, what's up, Richard and Patty Puff? What's up, Richard and Patty? Do you know about DOD Directive 524.01? If it's the same one that we covered, I think last week, then yeah, a little bit. We made a video about it and talked about it. Pulled it up. I did some initial, searching to see if I could backtrace it to where it was sourced from, whether it was new or not. And I couldn't find that it was a refresher. It seemed new to me. Now, again, I'm not an expert on it, and the DOD directives are layered and thick, and they go back a ways, and they're not very accessible, so it's hard to be positive about that. But then what I saw in aftermath was RFK Jr. came out, and he also posted about it, and he also said, for the first time in American history, this is new. So I did an initial cursory search, and it seemed new to me, and then RFK Jr. came out and said it was new. So that's about as far as I've gone on it. And I think he's pretty reliable. Sheila Poo, Patriots, watch those polls, baby. Watch those polls, and we're going to vote like our lives depend on it, like Mika Brzezinski. Lady Ice says, the fact that so many voter fraud cases are being publicly announced, including in Colorado, which is known to be anti-Trump and not afraid to blatantly cheat themselves, as we clearly saw, makes me fear they're trying to prepare and frame the right to disqualify him when he wins and press full charges against anyone who can frame, like Elon, TPUSA. It's in their playbook. Since when do they do anything about voter fraud? Well, I think the problem is that other people are catching it. Like, it was Mesa County, Colorado, that caught it. It's a very red county. Trump voters probably caught it. So they called in and they said, wait, our ballot has been counted? We haven't voted. So like the Trump voters are catching it. Same thing happened in Lancaster. Their people are catching it. Everybody is paying attention now. It's great news. See, Rob says, early vote now and help register 10 friends. Bring them to the polls to vote. Might be too late to register them, but definitely drag them to the polls. Hey, Stan Cottrell says, off topic, but just so you know, Israel's attacking Iran right now. Also, Israel is the apple of God's eye, from Stan Cottrell. Yeah, so apparently that's happening right now. We'll look into that and see what is happening. F. Joe Biden says Candace Owens did her 23andMe and Kamala, zero black, nowhere genealogy. Well, and Candace Owens has been doing some good research on that. And we appreciate the news. Chubby says, regarding that Rubin lady, why do so many of the most unhinged leftists all have lispy speech impediments? I'm not making fun of a speech impediment at all. I myself have a pretty bad stutter that sneaks up a lot. But it is something I've noticed lately. Yeah, I think we all have those. I mean, sometimes certain phrases will catch me up here. In particular, it's when there is a D word, like the defendant, or when it's two Ds, when it's like something D defend. I'm like, kind of gets stuck up there a little bit, but I think that's kind of normal. But you're right. I was thinking about this when I was watching Mark Elias and Jenna Griswold. They were side by side on a video one time. Mark Elias is the Democratic super lawyer. Jenna Griswold is from Colorado. And they were both on a screen together. And I'm thinking to myself, if you gave Mark Elias a wig or gave Griswold some glasses, they'd be the same person. They look almost identical. And they sound the same. They have the same cadence. I don't know. I think it's tribal. It's identity. It's you act in conformity with your peer group. And they have a strange peer group. Hey, Crazy Chicken Lady says, great job, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Crazy Chicken Lady. What a nice dono. I appreciate you stopping by and saying that. Stan Cottrell says, nice. Hey, Rob, nice guns, meaning shoulders and biceps. You working out, bro? Yeah, and it's an extra small shirt today, just to make me feel like I'm muscular and strong and powerful. Yeah, we've been lifting some weights here. Honestly, what I think has been the most impactful physical thing that I've been doing lately, jiu-jitsu. My body is wrecked, and it's attributable to that. It's been great. Hey, what's up? Hypernova says, Legal Eagle said Elon's lottery is illegal. Is it true or false? I think it's false. I think Legal Eagle just probably doesn't like Elon because he's a Democrat. So I think that the DOJ has warned Elon about it, but Elon is still giving away that money. And as a sweepstakes, it seems legal. Joan Kelly, what's up? Says almost a year. What's up, Joan? Thanks for being here. Almost a full year. 11 months. Grateful to have you here. Excited for our anniversary. Rob says, Timcast in IRL just went live. Video title says, Judge rules mail-in votes illegal after Election Day. I think that's right. Yeah, I think there was a Mississippi ruling that just came out of a district court there that said that. Said that basically federal law preempts state law. It's fresh. That's fresh out of the oven. Shout out to Tim. What's up? Knox Bierman says 2 more MAGA signs in the very blue hood, and my gardener trimmed back the bushes to make my sign more visible. It's MAGA-tastic over there, Knox. Good report. MJ Powell says 6 months in the house, baby. Thank you, MJ. Great stream today and every day. Thanks, Robin. All the watchers that make this possible. Thank you, MJ, for saying that and for also recognizing our fellow watchers out there. We're really appreciative of that. it's not possible without you. Really glad to spend the time together with you going through these very important issues. It's, I think, amazing work that we're able to do together here. Lady Ice says, Rob's not a real boy is very Mr. Billish. I want to hear it in court, but with Rob's voice. ELZ says, another great week in the bag. Thank you, ELZ. Thanks, Rob and the Watchers. $7 for luck. Thank you, ELZ. Really appreciate you being here. It was a busy week. It was a good one. Azok, 4 months as a membo, says Fifth Circuit Court votes after Election Day are not counted. That's the same one that Tim Pool was referencing. Christy Cat says, Rob, my friend, I always have to say thank you for always doing this for us. You're awesome. Christy Katz, really nice of you to say that. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for always jumping in the chat, for being so fun and friendly. And Jeffrey Adams says, Trump post on X, ceased and desist post, which came out today from Jeffrey Adams. And so Trump has been over there on X firing away. Hey, Norman Lee Smith Music shared this one and says, Rob, thanks for all you do. An anthem is born. Trump 24, Save America Again is live on Spotify and all your favorite streaming platforms. So check that song out. Norman Lee Smith, An Anthem is Born. Trump 24, Save America Again live. Check it out on Spotify. Sounds like it's an awesome one. All right, we're going to say what's up to our friends on X real quick before we go over to the after party on Locals. Here's one from our meme smith, Paul Mino, from Jack Smith. Jack needs reminding. You're not a real boy, Jack, LOL. But I want to be a real boy. But you're not. And you're never going to be. So just deal with it. Thank you, Paul Mino. You are not a real boy, Jack. What's up, Fred Pedamonte, saying he's making a ton of money. BitTorrent's shouting out Robert Barnes. What's up, BitTorrent? What's up, James Pepper? What's up, Crypto Nerd? What's up, Azok? Good to see you, Tony D. And it's great to see our friends over there on X. What's up, Vince? Good to see you, too. My friends, we are going to leave it there on the day. We're going to go over to Locals, hang out for just a few minutes, but members tomorrow will be back for our Saturday stream. So if you're a YouTube member or a Locals member, we'll be back tomorrow morning to get into it. And so, my friends, we'll leave it there. Donut, thanks for clipping for us. We got Playin' Hooky, John McGarvey, and K-Bean and Carrie B, our amazing mods and meme smiths. What's up, Paul Mino? Modding the fort down for us. But my friends, we're going to leave it there. It has been a heck of a week, a beautiful time covering all of these stories. We've got just a few days left until this election. So I hope this weekend you're voting, you're getting everyone you know to vote, and we're going to make it rain red ballots over these next few days. And so thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. We're going over to Locals to say goodbye, my friends. Otherwise, I want to wish you a tremendous weekend. Hopefully you're out doing something fun and exciting to restore your soul and your spirit so that when we come back on Monday, we get into this again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night and an amazing weekend, my friends. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.